AL Central Rundown. I'm Eric. With me today is Lee, Dan, and Sam. And for, I don't know, the third week in a row, the Tigers and the Guardians played again. Frankly, I think you both should just get over yourselves. It's been too much of our talk over the last month. But this time it was the playoffs. So our AL Central winners, the Cleveland Guardians, faced off in the wild card against the Detroit Tigers, who've played officially 10 games in the last 3 weeks. All of it interesting, and we finally have a conclusion. So before we really start getting into the series, we're going to talk a lot about those games in a bit, get game by game, and I have some highlights. Hopefully YouTube doesn't strike us down, but we'll see. But Lee, not to spoil anything, but you slayed the dragon. You did it. How you feeling?
Oh, so good. It's this series was I don't know if I've wanted to win a series more in like a long time because holy crap did that feel good. I mean, we've lost 5 out of last 6 to this team, 15 and a half game lead loss, etc., etc. All this talk, and finally we beat them when it mattered the most. So I'm feeling very good about it. Yeah.
We'll talk about it, but despite game one was about as much of a coin flip as you could have asked. We'll talk about it.
I need to go visit a cardiologist. Jesus Christ.
And then Dan, who during that entire series muted us in the Discord group because he didn't want us to spoil anything, and then gave us like a post mortem after the game. Dan, how you feeling, buddy?
Been through the ringer, man. I could bring up that, over the course of these 9 games that were played in these 3 weeks, the Guardians won 5 out of 9. I could bring up that over the course of the season, even with the playoffs included, the Guardians won 9 of 16, 9-7 against Detroit. I could bring up that the Guardians ended up winning more games over the course of 162. And guess what? I did just bring up all 3 of those things. But when it mattered the most, Detroit executed and Cleveland didn't. And we'll get into the detail of what that all entailed. I felt like the Guardians made some decisions that were counterintuitive to how they had played well over the course of the last month plus. But like you were saying, I had a fun week even with the loss. Maybe that's a loser's mentality. I don't know. But I went through painstaking effort to not spoil these games for myself because they are all 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock starts, and most folks work for a living. But avoided seeing them to watch them at the end of the day, and it was still an experience.
I mean, they were good games.
You guys got put in the Shakey's game this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what that is? The first NFL playoff game of the year, which I don't agree with because this was probably the most exciting series of the 3.
That's why I don't mean to speak poorly of other podcasts. There are people out there that are doing much more accomplished things than we are at this point. But Mr. Story Alley over at John Boy calling this the most uninteresting series of the 4 was silly. Quite frankly, I think this is evolving into one of the better rivalries in all of the sport right now.
Right.
That's my
I
opinion.
100% agree. I mean, it's got everything, right? It's got the division race. It's got multiple playoff encounters. It's got I have this memorized. I have to write them down. Maybe this will make you angry, Dan. I do have a couple Tigers players said some things after the 3rd game. I'll do first from Carey, which is the least. This is very tame, but this is so funny because Guardians fans got really upset about this on Twitter, obviously. But like they decided that he's a huge douchebag, which is hilarious because he's a very nice man. But he said, basically he was like, oh, we've heard a lot about 15 and a half game lead, but we're going to Seattle and they're not. So very tame from him. But then Jack Flaherty, in a very incomprehensible interview, ended it with, you could take those 15 and a half games and shove them where the sun don't shine.
It's all that matters now.
First of all, First of all, Lee, next time you say that, I need you to say that in a Stefan impression.
Thank you. Okay,
The
I
Guardians
wanted to make a
Tigers
Stefan
rivalry
joke.
has everything. It's got it all. It's got 15 and a half game leads blown. It's got Jack Flaherty making incomprehensible comments.
I
I
didn't
feel
know
like
if
I'm
I
being
was going to
made
be an
fun of,
old
but I don't
man.
understand the joke.
It's an SNL character. It's a Bill Hader. That's why I didn't make it. So Sam, thank you for taking the risk, but that's exactly why I didn't.
I'm being made
because-
fun
I got
of,
you.
and
I
I don't
got
like
you,
it.
Eric.
It's
Not
so
really.
it's a
You're
Bill
not making fun
Hader
of
character. He's on like Weekend Update, and he goes to a lot of clubs, and he starts off with like, "This club has everything. It has it's like," and then he says ridiculous. And when you said this series has everything, I went like, "Steph, like give her the haircut. Leave stuff
Yeah.
on."
I don't watch
But-
SNL, so
Just to respond to
Okay.
that,
Well, anyway.
just to respond to that, neither Detroit won. They have the right to talk. Just like when the guy hits a home run and wants to dance around the bases or whatever he's going to do. If you didn't want that to happen, you should have beat him in the first place. The one that I will fight back on, and I don't know, I saw because Lee posted it. It was I don't know if it was the Tigers Twitter or who, but the chestnut checkers
yeah, that was the
caption
Tigers.
thing. Don't act like you guys purposely lost a 15 and a half game lead. Like it was some grand strategy. You're
I don't
playing
think that's what the
seven-dimensional
intention was.
tiddlywinks in order
I
to
think
win the series. Get
I
out of here with that. Like
I think it was for
that to
AJ
me,
Hinch and Stephen Vogt, like the managerial match, the Vogt
well,
playing checkers and Hinch playing chess. I think that's what
the
it
chess
was.
wasn't working too good the 2 weeks before, so I don't know what to tell you about that. But
But, Tigers Twitter also posted the final out with the caption "Tig's ball." So,
All right. Well, we've
anyway,
flirted with
sorry,
it enough.
I just wanted to bring those up because I thought it would be funny.
So for anyone who is listening to this in audio, we are going to show like the video highlights from MLB Theater, and they take that from MLB.com or MLB AM. So there's all the credits and all of that type of stuff. So we're just going to kind of like, we're just going to play this in the background. Lee and Dan just and obviously Sam, even though I don't know if your opinions are going to be quite as strong as theirs. But we could also just talk about the highlights too, and then we can just go over the box scores over in a minute. So this is game one. Another game in Progressive Field. I'll be honest, like I'm at a break with Tigers Guardians, so I'm happy this series happened, but I'm happy it's over. But Dan,
So, yeah.
you watched all these pretty much all the way through. What was going on with Cleveland's outfield defense?
This is my first point. So the Guardians made a decision that they were going to focus on trying to maximize as much offense out of this roster as they could for this series. They need to. I get it. Like that's part of the deal. But that meant playing some guys that are a little bit more wobbly out there, like George Valera in right field or Jonathan Rodriguez in right field, which you saw there in that first clip. And it's the antithesis of how they've been playing, but it's what they felt like they needed to do. And they kind of paid for it a little bit in this series, honestly. The Lauder, we'll talk about a lot here in a minute. That
Actually,
was another decision that was made.
Can we
That's
actually talk
similar
about
as well.
that now? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
was
I am in the minority on this. I'm in the minority on this.
So he's a rookie. He made his MLB debut when in the playoffs, which isn't unheard of. It happened with Alex Kirilloff with the Twins in 2020, but like that seems like such a weird move. Was he injured going into the
Yes.
Okay.
So the Lauder is an off-injured. He's the number two prospect in the Guardians organization. He's an outfielder. He's really a right fielder. He did play center field in college, but he's probably more of a right fielder moving forward in the majors. His biggest thing is that's kind of kept him from getting to the majors to this point is he's hurt a lot. He's been hurt every single year since 2022 when he was drafted. And so this was an instance where this guy probably would have came up in July around when Kafis did, but he got hurt. And he didn't play from July until the end of the year. He was on the IL. The Guardians, in this instance, decided to put him on the playoff roster after he had finished rehabbing. And again, it was this move to we need offense. We need to find offense. Where are we going to find offense? Well, we'll bring up DeLauder. And to me, and again, I'm in the minority on this, having a guy who isn't a natural center fielder at this level go out there and play center field when he's never played a major league game before and hasn't played a game, period, in multiple months that to me was a panic move. That wasn't in it. My
Right.
grand thesis on this series and why the Guardians lost is they did a bunch of stuff that they didn't do in the regular season when the regular season ended up being pretty successful. They deviated in a number of ways. In a way, they kind of panicked in a way that I don't think they needed to. And that's a really good example of it.
And to your point, the first thing he did in the second game when he's starting is miss a fly ball to center in the
The
first
very
inning.
first ball hit to him, he dropped it. Now, the wind was swirling real bad that day. Like
Yeah, it
other
was.
players were having issues with the wind. He's the only guy that dropped a ball.
Well, like,
And
I
by
don't
the
know
way, he
much.
bounced back from it.
I won't tell
But
you I've ever played a major league outfield, but like one of the first things they will
What?
like a new play. Yeah, shocking, right? With this
What?
body, how could I have not played? But like one of the biggest adjustments that AAA outfielders have going up to a majors is dealing with a second tier of deck because you got to track the ball, but then also because of that second tier, sometimes the wind does something a little bit weird. And it is odd to me, like, you're not putting DeLauder in a spot to succeed. Now, if he does succeed, he's going to be a legend. Start building the statue if he's like a hero in this series. But like, it seems,
You're
like
setting him
Dan
up for
said,
failure.
it seems rushed. Yes, you're setting him up for failure. And that
the word I
seems very
keep coming
weird.
back to is panic.
Right.
Where are we going to find offense? Oh, God, well, they're scrounging the couch cushions for any like this
Right.
much more offense that
Well,
they can find.
and not for nothing. If you wanted to tell me like, well, the Tigers aren't going to have scouting data on him, wrong. They have Savant in every AAA state. Like they know the scouting report before they even get to the majors now. So it does
Yeah.
seem it seems like a stretch and like not now. Granted, they also gonna get 3 bonus games out of the Lauder for service time because this isn't gonna count. Now, does that matter at all? No, but I guess you get to see a preview of it. But I
To
don't.
I will say to his credit, to DeLauder's credit, he dropped that ball. He didn't let it affect him. He ended up throwing out McKinstry later in that game. Made a great throw. That's why he's a right fielder, by the way. He's got a great arm.
Yeah.
But
And he had good
he
at
had a
bats
couple.
too.
He had a couple good at bats. He worked a walk. This isn't a negative on him. I'm not saying that like he's terrible and he should no, but he wasn't put in the right situation for his first major league appearance. And I just think it came out of desperation and panic.
I would agree with that. So, all right. Anyway, we're playing this again. So, we talked a little bit about game 2, but this is still game 1.
I'd also like
Also,
to.
go
I
ahead.
just want to comment. Apparently, when Scooble's coming out of the bullpen to enter the game for the first time, he's already starting chirping with fans, which is hilarious.
See, I like that though. Like I mean,
so do I.
depending on what depending on what the actual discourse is between the fans and Scoop, I have no problem with that. Now,
I have no idea what it was. It's just when he was walking out, you can see him like saying something to the fans that are around. And like in the first few innings, like I was watching the condensed game earlier today. That you can hear the stadium is like going Scooble. It was really funny. I really enjoyed that. That's fun.
it is fun. Like that's what playoff baseball, like that's just what competitiveness is about. Now, like a couple
God,
years ago,
I
you had
was
Miles Straw like having to jump in Yankee Stadium's left field. This was interesting. All right, so this
just let
let's
Javi
talk.
feel that Tarek stop trying to make defensive plays.
He's gonna have another one in this game too. But yeah, so who is it? Martinez on third? Is that
Yeah.
who it was? So
Yeah.
Martinez is on third, and
He was on second, actually,
He
I
was on
believe, and
second.
made his way
Yeah.
around.
It was 2 outs, so that's why he ran, because it was 2 outs.
Yeah.
Dan, I was listening to this on the radio because I was going into class. I was getting a smoothie before I went to class. Dan Dickerson, he was so annoyed with these infield hits that are scoring runs. He's like, more of these infield singles.
Well, to be fair, that's all the Indians have done in the the Guardians have done in the last 3 weeks. Is these little squibbers.
I think that's why, like, it's not like Dickerson was like, this is a bad brand. No, it's just he's just so annoyed with watching this for the past 2 weeks. It's
more of a they can't keep getting
I
away
think
with
if
this kind of
Scooble
thing,
had thrown that between his legs, he would have gotten him out. Don't you guys think?
right?
Sam, I don't want to say we're on the same wavelength, but I was going to make that joke in about 2 minutes because there's another play Scooble makes.
Oh,
so
there is another one.
Yeah,
where
thank
he
you
could
for
have done
ruining my
that.
punchline, you jerk.
I
This
think
play,
Javi If Javi fields that, I think he has a chance to get him out at first too,
Right.
which is frustrating.
I don't know. Maybe. Probably a better chance. I think that's fair. This is an interesting play too. Good hustle though on the previous one by Martinez to not stop and just.
Ooh,
I
Noel.
think he was safe. Point blank. I mean,
was
that was the
there?
call that got reversed.
Can you pause this real quick?
Yes.
That play that we just saw right there at first base is the reason why they need the double bag.
Well,
You think so?
That could have been really bad if Perez didn't jump over his leg, because that could have been really bad.
Yeah, you
By the
have
way-
a double bag in foul territory, and the runner runs to that bag instead, because that could have been two broken ankles on that play right there.
To the same point though, Sam, here, Noel's foot is where the double bag would be. This isn't so much about we need two bases. This is Noel scrambling to find the bag in a hurry.
And I know
He was
Noel's
on the
played
bag
a couple games at first, and like I'm fine with moving him there because it doesn't yes, it's kind of a waste of his arm. I mean, this is just clearly a position, an outfielder out of position playing the infield.
I disagree because he has a history in the infield, and I think he's pretty good over there. This was a situation where he got glove on a ball that he dove for. Like, this wasn't necessarily a poor play from him. This play is the game to me right here. This is the difference. This is why Detroit won.
Between this and Noel's 3 strikeouts, he had a bad day.
Yeah, and a lot of people were upset he was in the lineup to begin with.
Okay, here's where I disagree because, yes, it tipped off of his glove, but he is set here. Like, he is in position. He just doesn't have his foot, like, at the corner of the bag where it should be. It's like,
And I didn't play at a high level, so take this with but I played first base. And I know the panic. Thank you, Sam. But I know that panic of where's the bag? Where's the bag?
Right.
Where's the bag? And you're kind of like stammering around trying to hit fabric and find it. And like that's all that was is he's trying to find the corner of the bag and he doesn't.
And I agree.
To me, that's.
But he has time. He's right there, and I get what you're saying. But this is still an outfielder playing out of position, and I'm fine with doing this. But this is on Noel. Like, you're stepping to the bag, you're counting your steps. I know he's not a major league first baseman. He's new to this, so this might be too harsh of criticism on him. But he's playing out of position, and the Tigers. This is what happens when you play a player out of position.
To me, this is just a crap deal. Like, it's just. I wanted to be mad at losing this game because of this play, and I just can't bring myself to he just couldn't find the bag. Like, it is. By the way, great job by Perez to not step on it, but still touch the bag.
Yeah. That could have been really bad. Dude, I can't believe he bunted.
They do not score in this inning if McKinstry doesn't bunt.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Yes, I 100% agree. He grounds into a double play here, like in any other.
I don't know if Hinch called that or what, but
I have to assume he did. We've bunted 5 times in the regular season. We bunted 3 times this series, or maybe it was even 4. But
I mean, not for that. We're seeing Terrace Skubal on this 90-second pitch throwing 100. So let's not bat over there. But I know sabermetrics kind of gets, and people who are into that world get this habit of don't bunt, don't ever bunt. That's not necessarily correct. There are times when going for a bunt is the right play. It's just the sacrifice bunt is hardly ever that play. If you're going to play for 1 run, there are times it makes sense to do, and that it works out. But I also think people forget the amount of times the bunt doesn't work. But I'm off of my soapbox now.
Can I go on a tangent about that real quick?
Yes.
I'm going to bring up some ancient history. Last year when the Guardians beat the Tigers. Sorry, but in one of those games, the game where Fry hit the home run late, game 4, he ended up safety squeezing in an insurance run in that inning by safety squeezing. And I heard Vogt later on after the season talk about that play. And the rationale for that bunt there was sabermetrics. It turns out the win probability when you go from a 1-run lead to a 2-run lead is significantly larger. So in that particular instance, they said, let's play for 1 run because the difference is we want the 1 run because we want the better chance at that percentage improvement in our win probability. Whereas we kind of hope to get 2 or 3 or 4, it's less likely. So I just thought that was interesting. There are instances where those kinds of things are the right play.
Right. It's just the way, and I think like where do I think like those who are complaining about bunting being taken out of the game will say they were their fandom started like in the 80s to the 90s, and that was when bunting was like at its peak. Ricky Henderson wreaking havoc on bases. It was like the Twins won 2 World Series doing this, by the way, so I'm not even against it, but it kind of got overdone. And then once data started becoming part of the equation in baseball, it turned out that that wasn't statistically the best option as much as it was happening. But anyway, that's weird.
Agreed.
Weird, weird
Especially
tangent.
now that the pitcher doesn't hit anymore.
Right.
That's another one.
That's true.
Yeah, but Zach is our best bunter, and Hinch kind of drives people nuts because he never bunts in any situation. When like a lot of times it would work because we have a lot of fast guys, right? But like, so that's why everyone was like, "Thank God we bunted," because we don't win that game if we don't bunt there. Yeah, he ended the game. He ended at one point with like 8 out of 9 strikeouts in the last outs. He had 5 straight going into the 8th inning. Like that, he was insane. 14 strikeouts, which is ties a franchise record for strikeouts. He would have gone all 8, except he has one flaw. He thinks that Austin Hedges is Barry Bonds.
That was the next game. That's the next game. But yes, I little. All right, this Javi Baez with a great play, and Torkelson pooched about as easy as a pick as you can make. Oh, they're not even going to show the replay on this? That's disappointing.
And then, oh man.
And then,
I thought we were going to.
Eric,
what does Jose do?
It's your favorite play. It's the contact play.
I do like the contact play. Again. But
Jose, not on a comebacker to the mound.
Not even like, not for nothing. No, what does Jose do here? And like, he was hung out. This is like his worst case scenario, other than like the ball gets directly hit to the third baseman. Because like it's a chopper, so you should be going, but it's right back. It's a slow, like he's dead in the water.
He's 50. Yep. He's halfway to home, and it's.
That would be my only criticism. At this point, you have to go full towards the catcher. Like you can't be doing back and forth unless you're trying to get the guy from first going to second. You're going to buy that.
I think maybe that was the goal, but it didn't.
Right, and they just caught up to him too fast.
It ultimately didn't matter because if he had stayed in third, we get the runner out at first, and then it's a pop up to end the game. But that out at that moment was huge because when I went to the bathroom at this game and I come out and I'm checking on my phone and I see on the MLB app, in play, no runs. And I'm like, and I'm like, okay, a single or a double, but there's still, we can get a double play or just got to get, and then I see he's on third base with no outs. I'm like, we are losing this game. I mean,
that was my reaction too. When I was watching this, I was at work and I was watching this and I saw the play where Ramirez, hits the ground ball, the ball gets thrown away, Ramirez goes to third. And I said, oh, the Guardians are going to win this game. Like, I don't even need to watch this anymore. The Guardians are going to win this game. It is going to happen. And, as much has been made about the Tigers bullpen this year and that, Will Vest maybe isn't the best guy in the world, he came in clutch in this situation.
He's really good. It's just he's had a lot of really bad moments, mostly in innings that are not the ninth. And I think thinking on it, I think it's an adrenaline thing for him. And postseason gives him the adrenaline so he can come in an earlier inning. But I think it's just like an adrenaline. He needs the adrenaline to he's a closer. That's who he is. Oh. But in that moment, I was like, shit.
Lee, I get what you're saying, but I know you're saying, well, Vest is the closer and he should only pitch the ninth because he's much better because he has that adrenaline. You're even breaking up relief pitchers already small sample size and into an even smaller sample size where he gave up runs in a non-save. And I get what you're saying and it might be true, but I have a hard time believing, I don't necessarily believe that. he's the same pitcher regardless of the situation. And yes, there's going to be adrenaline here, but I mean, we're talking 12 innings, and he gave up what, 3 or 4 runs in those 12 innings?
I don't know.
Right.
I'd have to look at the numbers. But I
And
like
like,
your point, but
I'm and is I can be wrong too, and I'm not, whatever. I'm not trying to be like, but like
if you say I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong. So
right. But I'm just saying in general, he's if he's your best option in the bullpen and the game is on the line, put him in the game. If it's like the 7th inning and let's be honest, Jose Ramirez, regardless if it's in the 7th inning on, wherever Jose Ramirez is batting, and it's a close game, that's the game. Like that's who you need to get out. Not for nothing, Javi Baez gets hosed on this play because he makes
that
a
was an
great
amazing
play, and then even short tops it like 10 feet from Torkelson. And Torkelson with not even a scoop. He's stretching as if it's going to be a scoop. He lets the ball get deep, and he just boots it like at a chest high hop.
Also,
like that.
It hits Jose Ramirez and it rolls into right field,
Right.
Which allows him to get to third.
Yeah.
I have to say there were multiple instances in this series where Detroit could have unraveled the same way they did in the last 2 weeks, and they didn't. And that's a credit to them.
This is a huge moment where that could have happened.
Yeah, this is one of them. This is, oh no, it's happening again. Let's pack it up. And they didn't. Vest bucked up, and he got the outs he needed to get.
Like we talk about, Ramirez getting thrown out, but Will Vest also does a great job of running him down there. Like he makes the deep throw, and he was a shortstop in college, there's going to be another play in the third game.
He didn't screw up his footwork on it. He did exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to run right at the runner, and that's exactly.
I feel like if this happens a week ago, he tries to throw it to third, and it ends up in left field.
Yeah,
that's kind of how these games were going. I know I said this in our Discord, but before this game, you could have told me that the losing team would give up no earned runs and strand the tying run on third with no outs, and the winning team would score on errors and with a sack bunt, and I would have bet all of my money in my bank account that the Tigers would lose that game.
Yep.
All right.
Like
that was only game one.
These games. This was game one.
I have a couple more points.
That's a large amount of money, right?
It's not that much.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
But you get what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
Lost in all of this, Gavin Williams was excellent in this game.
He was amazing.
6 innings, 5 runs, 2 hits, neither of which were earned. Fought through that Joe Alder drop. Oh, sorry, I'm mixing up games. That was Bybee. Strike that. But fought through Valera's suspect right field play. That is valid. 8 Ks, 1 walk. The biggest thing to me, 64 strikes, 24 balls. He pelted the strike zone all game, which is not the biggest criticism of Williams this year. Is he had the longest innings by pitches, most pitches in an inning average of any pitcher in the league. For him to be more economical, that's the final step, and I think we might have seen the birth of an ace. Maybe I'm being hyperbolic, maybe not. But he sure looked like one. He went toe-to-toe with Skubal for 6 innings and looked pretty good. Beyond that...
Sorry, good.
Go ahead, Lee.
This might be a wild call, but I'm going to say he is going to be a favorite dark horse Cy Young candidate next year. Like, he's going to be...
That's interesting.
That's what I would say. I don't know if he's not going to be my pick. I'm saying he's going to be a lot of people's he could be a guy. I think he's going to be a guy next year.
There'll be a lot of writers and podcasters out there going, if you're looking for somebody down the ballot, you might be interested in considering for Cy Young next year, Gavin Williams. I can see that. I get where you're coming from.
He's got the stuff. He is very good.
Everyone download DraftKings and go hit the way too early bidding for Tanner Bybee as Cy Young.
Gavin Williams. But whatever you do, don't call Clase and put your bet in with him.
No. He might do it.
Another thing I wanted to mention, and Lee, you kind of alluded to this. When Skubal was pulled out, I thought was interesting too. He was pulled out in the 8th. His sin that caused him to be pulled out of this game is he walked Hedges, which
the second time that game.
and then a fielder's choice that allowed the pinch runner for Hedges, Petey Halpin, to get to second base. That was the terrible thing that made Hinch pull him out of the game. It worked. It wasn't a problem.
I think
I just
he was
thought it
on
was interesting.
107. He was on 107
Right.
pitches. That was
Alternatively, I thought that was the Guardians' best opportunity to get back in the game. Bo Naylor was up, the man on second, 2 outs. And the way Boa swung it down the stretch, I thought, okay, maybe this is it, even before the ninth inning. And that just didn't come to pass. Bo was kind of, other than the home run we'll talk about here, he was kind of held in check.
All right, let's talk about game 2. That was a lot over. Like it was a great game, so like it deserved its time. But we have 2 more games to cover here. So this is the start of game 2. Was Casey Mize who's going for? It's a Bybee for Cleveland.
Mize was good. I know he gave up the 1 home run and he had another scary fly out. But I wish Hinch had let him go longer. But I guess he wanted to keep him on a really short leash just because, first postseason appearance for him. But he looked good. He was showing his 1-1 stuff. I know we ultimately lost this game, but Casey was good. He's far from any of the reasons that we lost this game. So I'm just really glad that he looked really good there. The real problem is this is our 1 hit with runners in scoring position. We have 15 left on base in this game. 15.
By the way, your one hit with runners in scoring position resulted in an out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was unacceptable. That is horrendous.
I will say to kind of the opposite side of things on that, this inning was produced by good at bats and stringing some hits together by the bottom of the order too. They did a good job against Bybee. Interestingly, the highlights here skipped the DeLauder drop. Even if nobody scored in that inning, that was a 23 pitch inning that didn't have to be in the first for Bybee, and I feel like that kind of set the tone for the day for him. He was good, but he wasn't as good as he could have been. He wasn't as efficient as he could have been. And here's just another example with kind of the hits that got strung together.
Yeah, at the time, I thought he was safe for sure, but then after I calmed down and looked at it, I'm like, yeah, he's out, I guess.
I'm just shocked that Dingler somehow didn't cross the plate in time.
He's just not.
Is he that slow? Like,
he's decent for a catcher, but he's still a catcher. I think his sprint speed is probably, if you look at catchers, it's above average, but for players, let me look him up.
Well, he probably also wasn't sprinting on that play.
His sprint
playoff
speed
Sam, you got to be sprinting.
53.
Well, what I mean is
going as
he was at third base and it was a hit to the outfield. Like, I understand it's the playoffs and you got to go full speed, but like naturally you're going to let up in a situation like this.
No, our players know that Joey Cora is going to send everyone. They're not expecting to stop there. They know the plan. They're not. He was going. He's a 53rd percentile, which is good for a catcher, but he's average.
Well, I mean, not for nothing. You're not you're going to third. If I'm the runner at third, regardless if I'm sprinting, you're probably not expecting the ball to go to third. Like, you're expecting maybe to second.
This is a good play by DeLauder, too.
Good heads up play by DeLauder for all the stuff. Like, again, he's not a bad player. This was a good play on his part. And good tag by Jose as well.
Yeah, right on the noggin.
No, it missed his head and got him on the back. I think that's what it was. Anyway, either way, he was out.
And not for nothing, to the point of DeLauder, DeLauder charged hard. It wasn't a long throw for him. Like, he was probably 30 feet from the infield when that's not a long throw for a center fielder. Especially
momentum going towards, if he was playing straight up, which I don't know if he was or not, but that's his momentum's taking him to third.
Right.
Like, he's able to put everything in that throw.
So Brian Rocchio had a pretty good 2 weeks for being nothing at the plate pretty much all year. He had a good 3-week stretch, or at least
200-mile-per-hour ball, by the way.
Right down the pipe,
right down the middle, but
Melton wasn't good in this game. He just didn't have it, and everything. He was bad with the fastball. It was not located. It was in the middle. That's a big part of how 5 runs get scored here. But Rocchio, something weird about Rocchio. He was really good in the playoffs last year too. And I don't know what to make of that because the first 5 months of this year weren't particularly stellar. He wasn't bad. He was demoted at one point, but I just don't know what version of him you're going to get year to year.
I am annoyed. I wasn't. Well, I'm not anymore because it ultimately didn't matter. I wasn't very annoyed that Hinch brought Milton into the situation. It's a tied 1-1 game in the bottom of the eighth. I mean, he did the same thing with Job last year in the Astros series, where we're up 1-0 in the seventh, and he brings the guy who's pitched 4 major league innings into the game. And I mean, it worked out in that game because we won, but in this game, it just didn't work out. So I mean, ultimately, it worked out for us in this series, so I can't get too upset about it. And maybe it's, I think it goes back to he's going to make mistakes sometimes, but, smartest guy in the room syndrome a bit. Like, he is the smartest guy in the room, but he's going to make mistakes. I mean, I think we ultimately win game 3 because he doesn't use Finnegan or one of our better guys here. But at the time, this really annoyed me.
Dan, do you want to take credit for your Melton nickname? Do you want to?
Troy Meltdown? Yeah, absolutely. He was good yesterday, so we can't really necessarily harbor that for too long.
He's better as a starter. Out of the bullpen, he's not as good. I love Troy Melton.
I think Hinch lost the battle but won the war in that instance.
Probably, yeah.
My biggest thing is, here we go. This is it right here. And I had other points, but this is a 5-run game. It wasn't a 5-run game when Cade Smith was inserted in the 8th. There was a man on second. There was 2 outs. I understand bringing him into this ballgame entirely. Why is this man wasting bullets with a 5-run lead in the 9th? And the answer is, well, you don't want things to get out of hand. Matt Festa pitched every other day for this team for 6 months. We didn't see him in the first 2 games of this series. He was completely fine. The chances of Matt Festa giving up 5 runs before he can get 3 outs are very, very slim.
Well, not for nothing.
I don't understand this move.
To go off of your point, if you cannot trust any major league pitcher with a 5-run lead, they're not a major league pitcher. They should not be on your roster, let alone your playoff roster.
And when I talk about the Guardians did things differently in this series than they did all year, Vogt empowered Matt Festa and Kobe Allard and Nick Enright when he was healthy. Once Clase went by the wayside, all these guys got the opportunity to succeed. And I don't know why, but we decided we weren't. It was too important in October to do that, and you end up burning out your best arms real, real fast when you make the decisions that they made over the course of these 3 games.
And to your point, it's not like it was a quick 9th inning. Like, that was a long inning. Tigers could have scored there. Tigers have had success at Cade Smith in recent games. That decision just baffles me. I mean, it worked out great for us because, and other pitching decisions made in game 3, but it was just a really weird choice.
And another point of frustration for me on this is they talk and talk and talk, and people, including myself, smart baseball people, talk about the tax you get when you have send a starter out there for his 3rd time in a game, facing the order 3 times. I don't know about Smith, but I heard it on one of the other shows this week. Hunter Gaddis, over the course of the last 17 days, faced Detroit 7 times. We're worried about Slade Ciccone facing the lineup a 2nd time through. We're worried about all these. Can't have the starter face these guys 3 times, but we're going to let Hunter Gaddis go out there for the 7th time in 17 days and hope that they haven't picked up on his stuff yet. It's just,
Vogt had 3
I'm a little bit of my feelings about this because we lost, but I think it's absurd, and I hope that I'm not.
Well, not for that.
No, you're
relief pitchers have not by default, but they have 1 plus pitch and a secondary pitch that might be passable.
Generally speaking, yeah. Cade is a good example of that. He's got a good fastball and a split.
The more you see of him in the shorter amount of time, yes, the advantage is going to go to the offense. So I
think why I'm frustrated so much with this is it's the same thing that happened last year. To me, they got further last year, but by game 5 of the ALCS, that bullpen was gassed, and the Yankees had seen those guys every day. And I was just hoping maybe we had learned the lesson. And I really, This is still a team I think that can compete in the playoffs in future years. I really, really hope they learn. And they, in this case, isn't just Stephen Vogt. It is Stephen Vogt, but it's also the organization because these decisions aren't just manager driven anymore. This is organizational philosophy. And I hope that they go get together this offseason and they talk about how they can improve that decision making. That's what I hope for.
I mean, you had
Sorry for the
three
tangent,
pitchers.
but
You had three pitchers go out through all three games. Sobrowski,
yes.
Gaddis, and Smith all went out there
Yep.
too many times. And
And we
like,
didn't see the aforementioned Matt Festa until game 3 when it was already a 5-run deficit. And we used
and
that guy every other day for 6 months.
to your point, again, the same thing happened last year against the Tigers. In game one, you guys were up by like what, 5 or 6? And Class A comes out. And then
Yep.
game two, Class A comes out again and Kerry Carpenter hits a 3-run bomb. Like it's yeah, if I was a Cleveland fan at this point, it's very frustrating how that's happened multiple times in the playoffs at this point. So
All right, so there is a third and final game. We've already alluded to who has already won, so there's no surprise who's going to win this. But what were your guys's? All right, so actually, I'll pause it here. But what, both of you? It's the final game. Lee, I think I know your answer, so I'll start with Dan. How confident or not confident are you?
I was cautiously optimistic at this point. I liked the fact that we had just had a 5-run eighth inning. And that we were the first team to kind of break open a game. Maybe the offense would feel pretty good about themselves moving forward. At the same time, this stuff about the bullpen that I'm talking about, that was already kind of in the back of my head. Like this, the math isn't good here. Like, not to mention we just used our two best starters in these 2 games. I'm not a big fan of Slade Ciccone to this point. I don't think he's the worst pitcher in the history of the world or anything, but I would have preferred to go with Joey Cantillo to start this game. He was, by the way, the
Right.
AL pitcher of the month in September. Um, Cautiously optimistic, but didn't necessarily feel like anything was locked down.
Lee?
I was very nervous about this because one, we got Flaherty going in, he's been good, but it's also been not good a lot of times. And also, point this out again, the last game and the game before, last game, 1 in 15 with runners of scoring position, 15 left on base.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we have scored 3 runs in the past 2 games at this point. We cannot score. And I just was not confident that Flaherty and our bullpen would be able to hold Cleveland to 0 or 1 runs, which, first of all, they didn't. Second, I was just not confident that the Tigers would be able to score anything off of any of these guys. Like, I was, like, the only thing that I was hoping for was they were 1 in 15 with runners of scoring position. The dam has to break at some point.
Right.
That can't be sustainable. That was my
Right.
hope. It's not going to be sustainable and like something is going to break. That was my hope.
Sam, who did you think? Oh, I think Sam.
Oh no,
Oh no, I think
He's very stoic about it.
Eric, who did you think?
I mean, honestly, I thought it would be Cleveland. I also, Dan, you got in my head, and I remember you thinking like Tarek Skubal will win the first game, and then Cleveland will come back and win the series.
I was right about every prediction up to that point over the course of
I was
this.
about to say, and that stuck in my mind. I was like, that is like the most Cleveland Guardian things to do. Like Detroit hits with its best bullet and then just can't complete the series. And just with how the last month has went, I thought for sure that Cleveland was going to take it. But Sam, now that you're unfrozen, who did you think was going to win?
Is he?
Nope, he's not unfrozen.
Oh
So
my
we're just going to play this clip. So whoever wants Sam's opinion, you can get it later.
I was like, man, I don't want to be the first team to win game 1 of the wild card and then lose the series.
All right.
Because that would just be another of, remember that year the Tigers blew a 15.5 game division lead and then with yeah, I just that would have sucked.
Also, if you would have told, so Chase DeLauder gets his first major league hit, but it's not going to officially count. It will and it won't. He gets his first major league hit in the playoffs, but because it's not a regular season game, I don't believe it's actually going to hit his baseball reference page. So he's going to have like a phantom hit. Who's the other player? Alex Kirilloff for the Twins, and it was only like 5 years ago. And if you would have told me that was the case, I think I would have been surprised hearing that the first player to do it was only 5 years ago. But good for Chase DeLauder. He's the second player because Alex Kirilloff. Let's just hope he doesn't repeat the career of Alex Kirilloff, because there's a lot of pain in his career of
So
this game.
Who's the first and only player to make their debut in the World Series?
is it
Ooh, I know this.
the pitcher for the Royals, the left-handed guy? I can't think of his name. You know who I'm talking about, though, Sam?
I know who you're talking about, but no, that's not the answer.
Can you tell me what his name is? Because I can't think of it.
Yeah, tell us.
So it was Finnegan, I
That's
think,
what
who
I'm
you're
thinking
thinking of.
Yeah.
He pitched in the College World Series and in the Major League World Series in the same
Okay.
year in 2014.
Oh, I think I remember that.
Oh, that's awesome.
In 2015, Adalberto Mondesi, at that time, Raul Mondesi, came in to pinch hit late in one of the games for the Royals, and that was his MLB debut.
Wow.
I do remember
Sam,
that.
now that you're alive and able to respond, who did you think was going to win going into Game 3?
So I really did think that after what had happened in Game 2, I thought that the Guardians were gonna win the game, especially with their late offensive push. I didn't think that Detroit could do anything offensively going into Game 3. So I was prepared for the. I was really prepared for the Guardians to win, and because the game times got slotted down for that game, we actually had it was on ABC, so we had the game going in the station on our channel. So the first two games I had to illegally stream while I was at work. The third game I got to just sit there and watch on our on our screen there. But there was like a moment where I went to the bathroom and then I came back and like the Tigers were suddenly up by several runs, and I was like, "Whoa, hey, what happened?"
No.
It happened quick, but yeah. So I was kind of, when I made my prediction, I wasn't really too certain about picking either team. But I think the biggest thing for me is, the Tigers blew a 15.5 game lead, right? There's, we've talked about that. That has been discussed, up and down for the last month. Well, in order to have a 15.5 game lead, you have to be 15.5 games better than the team that's below you. And, we were talking about the Tigers maybe being the best team in baseball for
a while.
A little while there. And so I think when you look at like the post-mortem of this series, you look at the players 1 through 26 on the Tigers and you look at players 1 through 26 on the Guardians. That's why the Tigers won this series.
Which we jumped a little ahead there. We'll talk about the postmortem in a bit, but we're still talking about Game 3. Not that it was. I don't think it was as close as we thought, so we can just kind of talk over the highlights here. But Sam, I agree with you. Like what you just said it's almost scary. Like we're agreeing on a lot of points, including before the start of the show when we talked about like the Red Green show. But anyway, I expected Cleveland to win this series because it's the most Cleveland thing to do.
Yeah.
But I can't get like Detroit was so dominant the entire until like literally 3 when Cleveland went on a heater and Detroit played its worst baseball of the season. And yes, there were leaks in their ship from like the All-Star break, but like it just seemed like it was collapsing, and it just seemed like, okay, the Guardians are going to win the World Series this year because this is unbelievable what they're doing.
Oh, so that's a really good pitch there that Jose Ramirez just hit, and that's why he's going to be a Hall of Famer, because that was a ridiculous pitch to hit. Can we just walk him
This is
every
something I
time?
this is something that I said a couple weeks ago when the Guardians were surging. Like, yes, it's a very Cleveland Guardians thing to do, to just hang around and then make a comeback and make the playoffs. It's also a very Cleveland Guardians thing to do to disappoint their
Yep,
fans.
1000%.
Like, you know,
Don't
Dylan
forget, for
Dingler
all
with
the
the home run there. Did you
oh, by the
know
way,
he grew up just down the road from Cleveland, Ohio, in Progressive Field?
thanks, Lee. I had never heard that before. Man.
I didn't
Um,
watch. I didn't
This
watch either of the broadcast, but I'm going. Well, actually, it's only a single broadcast, but I'm going to guess that was probably brought up 9,000 times.
Yeah,
yes.
this broadcast. Can we just take a moment to discuss
Mhm.
how awful of a broadcast this was? Because I swear to this is the worst postseason home run call I have ever heard in my entire life. I don't know what the guy is doing because no, seriously, he's like reading a list of Cleveland players or something. He's like looking at his notes and then he's like, "Oh, a home run!" And I'm like, "What are you doing?" The camera
I
is
thought
not focused on the
you
ball
got the
at all.
you got the D-list announcers,
I
Lee.
It
thought
was
Todd
This is
Frazier
true.
was okay. He was fine. He was inoffensive. But McDonough was awful. He was the play-by-play for this, and he was not good.
it was
I'm glad ESPN isn't entirely going away, I think, from national broadcast, but I'm glad that their footprint is diminishing because
Wenzel
they
with the
clearly don't want to invest in this sport
Wenzel had a
in this
clutch
way.
hit there. He had been 0 for 10 this series. I'm on the bus listening to this game. I'm like, please, if you're going to get a hit now. And he came through, and then it just, and then got a couple more good hits from Torque and Green. And man, that was, oh, it felt so good. Finally.
This inning. Go
We
ahead.
talked about it going into like the series. Like when you're facing the Guardians, if it's a 1-run lead, it feels like it's almost advantage Cleveland. But if they have a 3-run lead, like it feels like there's an outsized proportion of like you're going to win that game, and it just seems like
Yep.
once the Tigers are up by 3 or 4, and I understand this is a muff here, but like it's almost game over because it's Jose Ramirez, and yes, they're a put the ball in play, put pressure on the defense team, but that only goes so far. Cleveland has too much thump for it.
Detroit.
Sorry, yeah, Detroit has too much thump for it to not lose it once it gets above
This
a 3-run game, I guess.
What a play
now
there by Best.
earlier in this broadcast, I said, "Oh, there are a number of instances where the Tigers could have unraveled." That is the other one I had in mind. Yes, Vest drops the ball, but he's alert. He goes and retrieves it from the dugout and fires a seed to Baez, who makes a beautiful tag.
And
Like
Baez, again, can we talk about Baez for a minute here? Because he was in this series.
he was the
I mean,
MVP of this series.
yes, he's been given a lot of crap by me, by Eric, everyone here. He was 5 for 11 in this series with an RBI and 2 great tags in the third
He made
game.
every play
One,
in the field.
he
He was
made
really
every
good.
defensive play. He had the leadoff double in the 7th inning that led to all those runs. He tagged Jose Ramirez twice, once in the, I think it was in the 4th when
Dingler's caught stealing, right?
Dinger's caught him stealing with a great tag. He has another great tag here in the 8th. I mean, he was the MVP of that series, unless you want to do Tarek Skubal, but Javi played for all 3 games, so kind of, I mean, he was incredible. This postseason Javi is another guy, I guess.
All right. So
I,
we're already. That was the series. We'll talk about Dan's feelings here in a bit because
oh,
we have to do a postmortem for Cleveland. Uh, Detroit has already beat, as we're recording. Detroit has already beat Seattle last night. They're up 1-0 in the divisional series. I'm going like whoever wins the Seattle Detroit series, I'm going for in the American League. I'm going for the Brewers in the National League, but Sam Sam and Dan, who of the Seattle series with Detroit, are you going for Detroit? Or are you just we're going to hold the competition?
is the
Sam,
question who I want to win or who I think will win?
want. Who are you cheering for?
Detroit.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, even after everything that's transpired, I don't like the narrative that this division is somehow weak-willed, and I'd like to see are representative at this point make some noise.
For the record, I would have been for the Guardians. I mean, I like Seattle too. I would have been happy with Seattle going because I want them to win.
It's easy to say now.
No, I genuinely would have. I would have been like, give them hell because show that the AL Central has got some thump to it. I mean, last year it was different, but I think this year has kind of tempered me a little bit in terms of I want him to go succeed because but for what, even if that's worth nothing, just putting that out there.
I always root for a team to win their first World Series. So I am rooting for the Mariners and I am rooting for the Brewers. Now, if the Tigers win, I'd be happy with that too. Like I would not lose 1 minute of sleep over the Tigers winning and taking on the Blue Jays in the ALCS. But I think the other thing is with a lot of the teams that are in these playoffs who are still alive, you've got the Mariners who have never won it. You've got the Brewers who have never won it. You've got the Tigers who haven't won in a while. You have the Jays who haven't won in a while. So again, I think there's a lot of teams who fit that kind of hey, let's get someone new at the top of this
not for nothing
this league.
Like to your point, the Phillies, I understand that they have a payroll that's like top 5 in baseball. They haven't won it since the 80s. Tigers are 84.
Oh wait.
Oh yeah, you're sorry. Yeah. Oh and 8. Yeah, the Ryan Howard. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, the Phillies won it in this century.
Nope, you're right.
They won it.
I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm okay with everyone but the Yankees. If the Dodgers repeat, fine. I'm not. They would be. I'm especially not cheering for the Yankees, but then there's a big drop off, and then I'm not cheering for the Dodgers, and then everyone else I'd be pretty happy with. I think because
I'm rooting for both of them to get beat this round.
That's what I'm rooting for too. Yeah, but there are. I mean, there are a lot of teams that'd be like, I mean, if the Mariners beat us, they'd be like, great, go win the World Series because that would be really cool. I do feel bad that we have to beat the Mariners. If we beat the Mariners, I would feel bad because I do like the Mariners and I do want them to win a World Series. But I'm like, I want to win it more. So
that's fair.
And one other thing, I took a little day trip to St. Louis yesterday. My oldest sister is moving from Chicago to St. Louis, so we were stopping by to say hello. She doesn't care about sports at all, so not a problem for her. But we went to the Anheuser-Busch brewery, which is a really neat place if you ever get a chance to go there. But we were sitting there, and I was watching some of the pregame of the Dodgers, of the Yankees Blue Jays series. I was watching some of the pregame, and all of the talking heads who were on Fox, who consisted of Derek Jeter, A-Rod, Big Papi, and a bunch of other East Coast people, chose either the Dodgers or the Yankees to win the World Series.
I saw that.
The Yankees might not make it out of this.
They got beat to hell last night.
They got destroyed. The Dodgers bullpen is atrocious. Also, might not make it out of this round. The Brewers have been the best team in baseball for 5 months. And none of them picked the Brewers to even make the World Series. It's just, it's infuriating.
Right. I mean, there's part where that's where you get to see Major League Baseball, the corporate, the commissioner's office certainly have who they want to, and they do have a network that can kind of say they can be some mouthpieces, and that's where I'm not saying Pedro Martinez or David Ortiz are mouthpieces for MLB, but there's a clear favorite of
Yeah.
who the commissioner would like to be
Well,
in this.
I just want it to be like Brewers
Right.
Mariners.
Here's
That would
yeah.
that would really
Yeah.
that would really interest me. But MLB doesn't want the matchup that interests the baseball nerd.
Like
Exactly.
there's
They want the guys.
all the jokes of
They want Ohtani, they want Judge in the
Yep.
World Series.
did,
That's
did
all
you
they
see
want. And if that doesn't happen, they're gonna have to commit seppuku.
on
They
one
might
of the
they might
graphics?
settle for Schwarber, but they'd really prefer like if they went to
Yes.
the Pawn Stars thing and that Rick went, best I can do is Schwarber
Right.
Judge. He'd probably take it. But
On one of the graphics
Yeah,
they made,
the best I can do is Schwarber versus the Big Dumper.
on
Go
one of
ahead.
the graphics that they made, like for the postseason, they have one player from every team, kind of like lined up with like some in front and then going towards the back with like the trophy in front or whatever. Logic would dictate you put the 1 seed through the 6 seed. They put Judge and Ohtani right in front.
Yep.
Neither of,
Of
those.
course they did. Of
Dodgers
course
are the
they
3rd
did.
seed. Yankees are a wild card team.
Yep.
Like, come on.
Yep. So anyway, we're getting off to we hate the coast. Can we agree? We're we're the official flyover country, and we're bitter against the coast. So that's not going to change. But we're playing good baseball right now. So before we talk to Dan, he can do his season postmortem and all of that. Lee, take like 2 minutes. How you feeling?
Oh, this is amazing. It's like healing from how last season ended, right? You did get knocked out of the playoffs by Cleveland last season, and then this season you blow the lead. That no longer matters to me because we won this series, and that is the most important part to me. I do not care about the division anymore because we are playing in the ALDS. Who gives a crap if congratulations, Cleveland. You get to hang up a little flag that says 2025 division title. I don't care because we won in the playoffs, and that's the most important part. I got a little mean there at the end, but I do not care about the division anymore because this is the most important part. Winning in the playoffs. It was probably the best series win in the playoffs since 2012 sweeping the Yankees. That's for me. This trumps anything. This was amazing.
All right.
I'm gonna end it there.
We do have a little bit of a clip, but before then, Dan, just it's been a wild month for Cleveland. They shouldn't. If you would have said in September that they'd be in the playoffs, let alone the division winner, I think you would have called us insane. So just take a moment and gloat, and then do your postmortem.
Well, I'm going to get right into the postmortem, I think. I mean, yes, September was fantastic. And the Guardians did a thing that none of us have ever seen before. They eliminated a 15 and a half game division lead, ended up winning the division, ended up with 89 wins. I've said it in the show before. I think we got caught up in Detroit was good for this period of time. Ultimately, Cleveland's body of work for 6 months ended up being better than Detroit's. It was by 1 game, but just there's something to be take positive out of and have pride in that. It's why we watch the sport. It's why I bother watching. I didn't probably watch all 162, but I probably watched about 150 of them. Those little nuances are a big part of that. As far as kind of how I feel about the season and what transpired in totality, it's really a matter of perspective. This is a team that went to the ALCS last year in 2024. From there, you would like to think that such a team would build upon that success and hopefully progress and make it deeper into the playoffs. The organization responded over the course of the offseason by trading their cleanup hitting first baseman and trading their platinum glove second baseman. Those moves weren't necessarily illogical based upon the finances of baseball and where they were in terms of their contracts and also the needs of the team. They needed to to fill out their starting rotation. And so they made those decisions. And coming into the season, maybe it was a little bit ambitious to expect to get back to the ALCS now, though, because of the deficiencies they caused in the offense. Um, so that's how you enter the season. And then for about 5 months, I sat here and talked about it on the show every week. This felt like a 500 ball club, give or take. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. They weren't, they were very up and down. They were very inconsistent. They'd win 10 out of 12, then lose 10 in a row. And that it was very up and down. It wasn't a consistent 500 team. It was 500 because you did really well and then really poorly, and then did really well and did really poorly. And then they did really well for about a month. And that was really built upon the back of 6 starting pitchers who really found themselves in September, which I'm hoping is something that can be built upon. Bibee and Williams up front, I think, are the surest things of that. Like I said, I'm hoping we saw the birth of an ace on Tuesday with Gavin Williams. From there, you got some. I really like Joey Cantillo. I think he has the opportunity to be a very good starting pitcher in this league for a really long time. And so I think he's a great number 3 next year. And from there, you've got some guys, Parker Messick, Ciccone, Logan Allen. We might see John Means. They could pick up the option on John Means and have him in the rotation next year. There's depth there. And so that mission's accomplished. The thing I talked about them wanting to improve last offseason happened. Now they got to find some offense. They need to find a center fielder. There's not a center fielder on this roster, not an everyday one. Chase DeLauder is not a center fielder. I'm going to say that until I turn blue. He could be a very good right fielder, but he's not a center fielder. And I don't think Angel Martinez is the answer. I think we proved that this year. Lane Thomas was supposed to be the answer. He finally got surgery on his plantar fasciitis in September, and he's a free agent. So he might come back on a prove it deal, but I'm not going to assume that. The biggest thing this team could do to take that next step is find a center fielder somewhere, and one that preferably can hit. I think Baltimore would be a really interesting trade partner where you could perhaps offload a Slade Ciccone or somebody like that, a team that needs starting pitching. And they've got a bunch of young, talented players, position players that you could pick from. I'm just kind of doing stream of consciousness now, so I apologize. But ultimately, depending on if you look at it from the perspective of the offseason, where this team should have made the playoffs and gotten deep into the playoffs, you can be disappointed. If you look at it from the perspective of September 2nd, when they were below 500 and however many games out, you could be thrilled. And I think the answer is ultimately both. September was a blast. I'll never forget that. That was one of the most fun periods of time in my existence as a sports fan. However, the 2024 playoffs were even more fun, in my opinion, getting into a Game 5 ALCS. And I'd rather have that. I want that moving forward. And I hope the team makes the moves that can make that occur. And I just expound on what one of those might be.
Nope. So last week, Sam asked what is going to make either Detroit or Cleveland's year a success, and it was basically beating the other one. Do you still feel this team is was this a successful season?
No, it wasn't. I'm going to take the view of the offseason, the start of the year. What they did is still historic and a great moment as a fan. But in its totality, I think this season was a failure.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? I
it
think
does.
that
I do
I'm talking
disagree
out of
with
both
that,
sides of
though.
my mouth. But to me, as a fan, I'm happy that stuff occurred.
Right.
But the goal wasn't achieved
Right.
ultimately. And not even like the World Series of Bust. I'm not a World Series of Bust guy, but I needed to get closer to that place, and I don't see that.
Right. And we'll talk about, we have an off season to figure out like what they need to do to get back and all that good stuff. But I do now granted my team has had the weakest postseason success in the last 30 years in the Central. I would view this as a success for Cleveland only because you were dead in the water in September. and you were playing meaningful baseball. And I understand, like, and I'm taking already a one season sample size and I'm splitting it up into a month. But I don't, nobody at the start of September thought there would be two central teams in the playoffs. And Cleveland, I think, did something no other team thought was possible. And not only played meaningful baseball in September, but won the division 15 games out. That is unheard of in 1 month. And then they just ran into the same team again. And then ultimately, I do think Detroit is the better team, but Cleveland still won the division. Now you can celebrate division titles if you want, and like I'm one, like you've done it. You're gonna hang the banner, take pride in it. As far as memorable baseball, I feel like if I was a Cleveland fan, I'd be happy. I'd have come back with a positive feeling about this team than a negative feeling about this team.
I have I have kind of a weird analogy I want to try to make to sum up my feelings of how this went this year. I'm going to do my best with this. I was generally speaking a very good student in my younger days. But in fifth grade, I was really struggling in science to the point that I got the only progress report sent to my home that I ever got in my entire life, which, okay, whatever. But I wasn't doing well. I had a poor grade about halfway through the quarter or whatever. And my parents found out and they weren't quite pleased about that, quite frankly. And I worked really, really hard the rest of that quarter to get my grade up. And ultimately, I think I ended up with like a C in that class, science class. And the answer I got from my parents on that was, well, we're not really happy with the C, but you worked really hard to try to get your grade up in the first place. So we're proud of you for that. That's kind of how I feel about the Guardians is, I was expecting more out of you just in general. Like this season should have been better than this. But you know what? You were struggling. You worked really hard to get out of that struggle, and this is the result. Take pride in that part of it. I hope that wasn't too weird of an analogy, but
That was a very funny
it's what I
analogy
came up
that
with.
makes sense. That's not where I thought you were going to
Yeah.
go with that, but it makes sense.
So that's my answer to how I feel about this. I'm disappointed that they didn't do better, but I'm not really mad about it.
Right. So there's one other point that apparently not. So I don't know anything. Dan, you introduced this in the Discord, so you should probably set this up better than I do. But we're going to show a clip here from Cleveland Sports Radio. 98.9 The Fan, and Nick
I,
Wilson is his name. So credit to
it's
them
90,
before we play this.
it's 92.3 The Fan, just to clear that up. Nick Wilson, he's the afternoon drive time guy now here on one of the local sports talk radio shows. I was really surprised by this take from him, not because I don't listen to Mr. Wilson very often, so apologies to him for that. But this city is very, very, very Browns heavy with its local sports media, and there's not a lot of nuance to the baseball talk. But this is him talking about this is what happened. This is after the series ended. This is the next day, and wants to talk about the season. He wants to have a postmortem like I just did. He wants to talk about that. And the first four people that texted or called in, rather than talk about Jose Ramirez or how Kyle Manzardo is now a cleanup hitter or the great run they went on, the first four comments are about ownership. That's the lead-in.
And I'm pretty sure he swears during this. I mean, it is radio, but I feel like when I saw this
He
clip,
uses
there
he
was some
uses a
colorful
word that
language.
yeah.
So hopefully we're able to do this on YouTube. If not, you won't see this. If not, you'll hear this on the audio version.
The body is still cooling. And I got to have the first four freaking comments about the Dolans. What about the dudes who play the game? What about the guys who've led this whole structure to more success in a small market, mid-market? I didn't even want to say one thing because it's not going to be, they're really a mid-market. They're not a small market. Fine, semantics me to death. If you don't feel pride of being a Guards fan for this team being in the playoffs, you aren't a Guardians fan. You want to bitch about the Dolans tomorrow? Sure, we'll do that same stupid conversation that we've been doing as long as I've lived. And before the Dolans, it was Dick Jacobs. And I guarantee you, I wasn't alive for Vernon Stouffer. I guarantee it's the same damn conversation.
So we'll stop it there just for more. But like, as someone who, spoiler, we're going to talk about the Twins here in a bit, and I'm going to kind of take his anti-position on that. I can understand. Like, this is a good example of maybe right argument, wrong time.
And he says in the lead-in, there's the part of like he says, if you want to have this conversation, like this is a valid conversation, ownership's part of the deal. That's his statement, I think, is right now isn't the time. Like they just did an incredibly historic thing. I would hope that the first four people that call in don't want to talk about ownership. And in that instance, I think he's 1,000% right.
Yeah, I
Um,
100% agree. He's completely
I
right.
I have an analogy for this too, and it's a little bit briefer. The people that want to have that conversation the day after the playoffs are the same people who will go and Eric, you're a wrestling fan. You know wrestling's fake, right?
How dare you?
They're the same people. I'm finding joy in this thing that, yeah, it's flawed. Yeah, it has this technicality to it. But ultimately, I enjoyed watching this for the last 6 months. Well, what'd you bother watching that for? Ownership?
Right,
No, no. What? That's it. Watch the games. Enjoy the games.
right.
This doesn't count for less because the owner only spent $100 million on the payroll. These people aren't locked in for 6 months, in my opinion. I'm getting a little bit to me, these are people who delight in the Guardians failing for whatever reason because of this crusade they're on, because of ownership. They're happy that they failed because now they can use their talking points about the Dolans. And you don't have to watch a minute of baseball to have that take.
Right.
Not a minute. You don't have to watch any of the playoff games to have that take. Well, the ownership, no. To me, it's lazy. And yes, there's validity to it. I wish they'd spend more, but spending more doesn't guarantee anything. And New York Mets spent how much money on that baseball team? They were watching at home. They were watching the Tigers and Guardians play on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I just, if you like the sport, you wouldn't let ownership keep you from getting engaged in it. And so, Eric, you have your criticisms, and they're completely valid. But that's my like that. You still watch the Twins, right? Like
Right. There's
you're not. It's not your only ethos. It's not the only thing you can
right.
bring up about the sport. And I feel like that's a lot of these
If you
folks.
can't enjoy the trip, why are you watching the games?
And
Like,
that
I
I'm
understand you
sorry to
can talk,
interrupt.
like, we have an entire offseason to talk about, like you said, payrolls and owning decisions and things like that. But once the games are being played, that's the joy. And Cleveland did something that nobody ever expected them to do. And if you cannot enjoy that high, then you are the same person who wants Stephen Vogt to be fired the second day, the second loss that he ever has, or the first time he does a bullpen decision. You want to release X reliever after he blows a 1-run lead. Like, you're more worried about being right than being a fan. And like, I can see how Mr. Nelson or Wilson can be very frustrating. Like, we just saw something phenomenal. Like, we just saw something unbelievably good,
And I
and
think
we got to
Mr.
find the
Wilson
negative.
maybe he had an idea for how his show was going to go, and it wasn't going the way he had planned. And I think that's probably part of the frustration
Right.
too. But you're right. And that was the other thing I kind of caught in the media this week podcast I listened to is this premise of, well, the last 6 months were a waste of my time. Like, no, bro. Like,
No,
the journey is part of it. 29 teams lose every year.
I was about to say. I
That
can tell you.
journey
I wish the
is
Twins would
the
have. The
deal.
Twins had a better record than the Guardians, by the way, at the trade deadline, and
Yeah.
the Guardians won the division. Now,
Yeah.
is that going to happen in any time in the next 5 years that the Guardians, who had a losing record at the start, win the division in the last month? Probably not going to happen for a minute, but enjoy it. Like, for God's sakes, enjoy it.
And like kind of what he says elsewhere in the clip, he says there's no counter argument to that. It's like you said with the wrestling thing. Well, it's fake. What are you supposed to respond to? Well, they're never going to buy. How the owners are never going to do anything. How do you respond to that? That's not a conversation starter. That's a conversation ender. And I kind of want to add on to this because
Right.
something kind of similar. Not to like make it about the Tigers and make it about me again.
Please.
But let me paint the Tigers just win a wild card series. They're going to the ALDS for a second year in a row. They just beat the team that's kicked the crap out of them the past 2 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. The Tigers owner, Chris Ilitch, is there in the clubhouse celebrating with the team. A bunch of reporters are there. They're talking to the players and they're talking to the owner. And Evan Petzold asks Chris Ilitch, he's talking to Chris Ilitch, what kind of questions does he ask the owner at this moment? He asks, are you going to prioritize a contract for Tarek Skubal this offseason? Why are we talking about this? This is not the conversation to have at this time. Wait. This is not the time. Like we said, time and a place. We do not need to talk about if we're going to spend money after all we're celebrating a playoff series victory.
Right question, wrong time.
Yes.
If I were Mr. Ilitch in that instance, I'd say something along the lines of, we play Seattle on Saturday. My focus is on giving my guys the resources they need to go win that series right now and nothing else.
His response was, we're in 2025 now. And people were getting upset, there's Scott Harris said, because they were asked these dumb questions and people were getting upset. I'm like, guys, this is the wrong time to be talking about this. We just won a playoff series against a team that has won the division over us. Don't be asking if we're going to be re-signing Tarek Skubal right now. That is not the conversation to be having. It's Sam
you're muted. You're still muted, Sam. Hello.
Hello. How are we doing today? Questions like that, as someone who works in this field, those are the questions that get clicks, right? When you're skewering the owner, when you're talking about payroll, when you're saying, why isn't this team spending? Those are the stories that get people reading them. The story that says, wow, we did such a great job. No one reads that story. So again, that's a little bit more. And I totally agree with the comments made by, the Cleveland sports fans. But it's also look, your team won the division 2 years in a row. The Royals have won the division one time ever. They have won the AL Central one single time. Now, granted, when they did that, they won the World Series. So, they made the most of it. But we're not going to raise a banner. Some people are trying to raise a banner in Kansas City because we went 82-80. And they said, oh, well, over the last 10 years, this team has averaged 99 losses. Who cares? We are sitting at home watching the playoffs. We were in the playoffs last season. We're not in the playoffs this season. So, yes, I would love to see the Royals have a winning season consistently. But the Guardians make the playoffs consistently. And I think part of it is, and during that clip, it's like a 2.5 minute long clip, he alludes to the Browns and he alludes to the signing of Deshaun Watson. I think it's a little bit of, in Cleveland, there's some highs and lows in the Cleveland sports scene right now, to say the least. It's a lot easier to complain about the Guardians and the Dolans and them not making the World Series than it is to complain about something real and something scary, which is the absolute dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns, and the fact that the third string quarterback is the subject of more news than anything having to do with actually going on the field.
And Sam, that's been going on for 25 years. And I don't mean
exactly.
I'm not going to go on a tangent about this, but this is something that really bothers me about the sports fans in this town in general. And I'm making a generality here. If you're an individual fan of Cleveland, I may not be talking about you, but the Browns have been god awful for 25 years, give or take. I know they beat the Steelers in a playoff game a few years ago, one time. Congratulations. But they are not good. They are historically not good. And yet they get 90% of the media coverage in this city when the other two teams in this city, not just the Guardians, but the Cavaliers have the only championship in this city in 61 years. And the Guardians are consistently good year after year after year with little exception. And yet, because of just the nature of sports these days, people's attention is divided into so many things. Football's easier to follow. This is a Browns town, whatever you want to say. There are reasons why the Browns get talked about ad nauseum, and the Guardians and the Cavs are fighting for scraps every year.
It just
And
baffles me. I don't get it. Like, what have the
neither do
Browns
I. I live
ever
here.
done? Like,
Moved to
Yes, I
Baltimore.
was about to say Jim Irsay moving them to Baltimore is what they've done.
It drives me crazy, guys. And thank you for giving me this platform to express that. But it's incredibly frustrating as somebody who's just kind of grown out of interest in football and really, really loves baseball. So I am biased,
You're telling me
but
you didn't wake up early to watch
I didn't.
watch
I
the
actually don't even
Browns
know if they won.
game,
Did they win?
and
no, they almost did.
they lost.
They almost
Surprise,
did, though.
surprise.
Yeah, they lost to Carson
Yeah.
Wentz and
Ouch.
the
And
Minnesota
they're a
Vikings.
mess of an O-line. They don't have an O-line.
Yeah, but no, and again, like it's not that they can't spend money. Every team can spend money. You know, it's the idea of spending
Right.
the right money and putting your team in a position to win, which the Guardians have done and did again this year and made the playoffs. And while, 18 other teams sat at home.
So allow me to transition because selfishly, I have a good. Oh, speaking of teams who are frustrating, and regardless of how you build your roster or your franchise, you need to make the correct decisions. We see the Guardians and the Tigers are on the upswing. The Guardians have owned this division for the last, I don't know, 20 years essentially. 10, we'll say 10 for sure. Let's talk about the Minnesota Twins for a bit. I'm going to try to not make this as ranty as I want it to be. And just as always, like anyone who listens to Gleeman and the Geek, you understand. You've probably already heard this rant because I'm taking a lot from them. But the Twins did like they do every year. They do like a post-mortem. This is how the season went. And there are years where when it goes well, the questions are easy. The owner shows up to answer questions. And then there's years like this year where it really is starting to dawn on me, and this is probably not, and maybe I'm the last one of this group to realize this, but it is really becoming clear of there is a crisis in leadership in Minnesota. And I don't even necessarily mean that they just fired their manager. I mean the front office on up. There are some really concerning signs, and they just did one press conference at the end of the season. So I want to go into that, but I don't want to also rant for the next half hour, even though I certainly could. So I'm just going to kind of go off some bullet points. I'm not going to elaborate unless my three other co-hosts here say like, wait, that is concerning. Let's talk about that. But just know any of these points I'm going to bring up, I could talk about for an awful lot. And then I can sum it up with a bow at the end. But in general, like I said, I'm trying to be this concise. You guys just chirp up when you're like, hey, that makes no sense. So, they're doing though. I'm going to start off with Baldelli was fired. Regardless of what you think of Rocco Baldelli, he is a manager. I am the type that I don't, of the four major sports, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, the manager has the least amount of on-field, in-rink impact. Not saying they're not important. They're certainly important, but they have the least impact for the actual player performance. They collapsed last year, and they had a 90-loss season this year. Managers get fired off of that. But I guess when it was released, I was moderately surprised. Not because I didn't think it would be justified, it's just I didn't think this team would actually make a decision in order for it to in order to fire him. So, but what was kind of odd when they fired him, they sent out this big long press release. And anytime, if anyone wants to follow the Minnesota Twins social media crew, I pity their actual social media class or their crew because they're the literal messengers delivering this from ownership and front office, and it doesn't seem like either of them have a clue of what they're actually sending out. So anyway, they send out this big long press release. And in the middle of it, Derek Falvey, who is the president of baseball and business, is by far the outside of the owner, the most important person in the franchise. He says something, he takes personal responsibility over the team's performance. And therefore, they made a collective decision to fire Rocco Baldelli as manager. Okay.
I take personal responsibility. Therefore, I'm going to fire this other guy.
Yes. And that struck a lot of people weird.
It's an interesting way to word it. I guess what he's trying to say is Baldelli was my hire.
Yes.
Was he Baldelli? Was that the case?
Yes. And Baldelli had been there since 2019. I'm not going to tell you that. I mean, this is when managers get fired. He's been there for a while. They had 2 horrible seasons back to back. It was justified. The personal responsibility, like you guys are pointing out, is a weird phrasing.
When we talked about this in our Discord group chat earlier when this happened, I referenced the Letterkenny hockey sketch, and I don't know if you guys have seen that or watched that when I sent it. It's a very funny sketch, and it's basically about a hockey team that's doing terrible, and one of the players says, "Someone's got to wear it," and that's usually the coach. And they keep going, like they ask this whole question about like the coach, like, you know, doing some unsavory deeds, and he just keeps saying, well, someone's got to wear it, and that's usually the coach. But that's the thing, is someone's got to wear it, and that's usually the coach. The GM can only be fired by one person. The owner can't be fired by anyone. The coach is the guy, he's the fall guy in every situation. So it's like the GM's not going to say, oh, well, this is my fault, and, you know, someone else needs to come in, and so I'm going to resign, and we're going to hold on to the man. No, like, that's never going to happen. And so he says, oh, well, I take personal responsibility for that. And it's like, one time I was doing something, and we were broadcasting a football game when I was in college, and one of the people who was supposed to be producing it back at the radio station showed up late, and she texted the sports manager, oh, I take full responsibility for the... Yeah, it's your fucking responsibility. Yes. You showed up late. You're the GM for the baseball team, and they had a horrendous collapse last year, and now they trade away all of the players. Of course, it's your responsibility.
Yes. And I think, like, and the manager has, like, the of the front, because you can count them. I think it's reasonable to count the manager as part of the front office. It's the lowest rung of the front office. It certainly has its leg, and obviously, like, the player and all that, but, like, they have such a little role to play in that it's almost laughable that you're going to take personal responsibility while firing the other guy. And, like, when Falvey was asked to elaborate on this, it came down to, okay, so how do you take, what actions are you taking? If you're going to take personal responsibility for this, what are you doing to take that responsibility? And he basically said, I feel bad that the team feels bad or played bad, and I'm up at night. I believe that.
I feel really bad about it.
Essentially. But, like, that's not taking accountability. That's just saying, I feel bad.
That's such an aw-shucks comment.
And, like, granted, I'm paraphrasing this, and also keep in mind, whatever answer I'm going to paraphrase for Falvey, he is I don't want to say a master of corporate speak, but like it's all corporate BS is what
It's
it's going
not
to end
even
up
good
coming.
corporate speak, though. The right corporate speak
Yes.
there is we're turning over every stone to figure out what we can do better as an organization, and so on and so
Right.
on. So he
We're
didn't do
going to
that.
take a
He did. Oh,
hard
I feel
look
bad
at
about it.
our
Yeah.
our decisions, at what led up to those decisions.
Yes.
Something,
Yeah.
not just I feel really sad when I'm lying in bed
Yes.
at night.
Yes. And all of that can be true. I want you to care about your job because I care about how this
Yeah.
team performs too. Don't get me wrong, but like, and you have a bit more investment in that than I do. So then they ask, okay, so like, you're going to be looking for a new manager. What traits are you looking for? And he goes, well, we haven't really discussed that. We're going to go back to the office and we're going to have a collaborative discussion over what we're looking for.
I feel like you should have had that before you fired Rocco.
We're
We're
gonna
going to have a meeting about this. Okay, so do you have a list of candidates? Again, this is the question. Do you have a list of candidates?
Characteristics.
And he was like, well, no, we don't have a list of candidates yet. What do you mean you don't have a list of candidates yet?
The
I
Rangers
have a list of
already hired
candidates.
their guy.
Like, anyone, name a player.
Well, no, that means they're waiting to see who's available.
But not even, you have a short list. And I'm not even telling you, and like, I think the point that I'm making and the people who have reported on this are making, we're not asking for the names. We're just say, lie to us. Yes,
It
we
comes
have.
off.
We
It
have.
comes off like they just made the decision to fire Rocco 5 minutes ago, and they haven't really thought any further than that.
Right. And
Like
that's,
the
there's
the
going to be
Rangers
a
have
trend
already-
here, people. And I want you
Rangers
to
have
remember
already
what Dan
hired
just
their
said.
guy. The Angels are already rumors about who's going to be replacing Washington there. You're behind.
Well, also,
Or to
you
me-
don't have traits for a manager?
Yes.
Are you kidding
existing
me? Of course you
characteristics.
have traits. Like, I can list off the traits. I know them. You want a guy that wants players to play hard. You want someone who's going to motivate them. I can list off the traits. You don't know them yet?
It's so
Right.
generic. It's so easy to
Yes.
just make stuff up. I want someone with experience in this league and experience winning in this league. Easy. Done.
Whatever you want, but you know the traits. But don't worry, we're going to make a collaborative effort and we're going to talk about it. Okay, whatever. We're going to get off Baldelli because there were certainly other things that were happening. So Falvey's role just within the organization, he has one of the more powerful positions for a franchise in baseball. He is the president of baseball and business, and there's only like 5 of those dudes around in the sport. So regardless if you think you're doing
He's
a good or
Jerry
a bad
Jones.
job, he is a rare commodity in the sport, and he was recently promoted last year off of the collapse, where they then promoted another GM, Jeremy Zoe, who was one of these. They filled it in internal, essentially. So his role, he had a big role, and keep in mind, this is all after the owner said the team is up for sale. So there was a little bit of a question of, why are you promoting this dude who just had a significant collapse? His team just had a significant collapse when you're going to sell the team, when that new owner might just be like, I don't care who you hired. He's gone. I don't care. That's not my guy. But you're going to promote him to one of the more powerful positions in sports. And maybe that was just a transitional thing, and Falvey was going to have the title for a year. The new owner comes here, and Falvey just has something he can put on his resume to say that he did, so he can get another job later. That's all great. Falvey replaced a gentleman named Dave St. Peter, who has been the president of Twins business for like the last 25 years. And frankly, his time was kind of up. We can go into that, but that's another tangent I can go into. So Dave St. Peter was supposed to leave Q1 of this year. And because the sale didn't go through, Dave St. Peter really hasn't been absent. And we're firmly in Q4. Go ahead, Sam.
It feels so gross to be talking about Q1 and Q4 in the arena of fucking sports.
Yes, it is.
In baseball, like, oh yeah, we want to really sign someone to our team in Q1 this year.
Right.
Fuck off, talking about Q1 in
So
baseball.
he was supposed to step down. So after Q1, he was supposed, like, Falvey was supposed to be the guy. So like, I'm not even saying the Twins said that. So if I made that impression, that's my fault. The point is, the guy who said he was going to step away from the team is still heavily invested in the business sense, which makes you think he probably didn't think he was going to survive a new ownership transition, and he was going to walk away. But when became clear that the Twins were not going to be up for sale, he just kind of stuck around. So I say all of that to say that they asked Falvey his role. Say, hey, do you think this was your first year as president of baseball and business? Do you feel that you were stretched too thin? Did you do too much this year? And I guess he gave like a nervous little laugh. And then he basically said, I will be happy to do what the Pohlads and the new ownership group, whatever role they want me to do, I will be happy to fill it.
That's a man who hates his job.
That's like, then that was also the point too. If that's a guy who has been told 5 different ways that he doesn't know what his future is with this club.
No. That's a man who wants to keep his job and says to his boss, happy to help the team, ready to do anything, gonna just be a team player, ready to be here. That's a man who wants to keep his job.
I agree with both of you, which I know you're kind of making slightly different points, but that is someone saying ownership is on, like, there's been a lot of reading into that, and granted, there's a lot to read into it, but it's basically the ownership is chaos right now. There's no direction from the ownership. So I can't answer that question for you, what my role is, let alone what it's going to be when the new owners come in.
That's my reaction to that.
Yeah.
Is that the lines are not delineated here. I'm not sure. Today they're asking me to do something business related. Tomorrow they're asking Mr. St. Peter, I forget his first name.
Yes.
We're at the beck and call of the ownership to do
Right.
what we're asked to do. The organization is not very organized.
So then they move on to, they then ask him, put on your business hat. So not the play, like, you are the president of business and baseball. We want that business hat on right now. What are you going to do to get angry fans back reinvested into the team? How are you going to get them to start spending their dollars back into the team? Because the Twins just had the lowest attendance since the 2002 Twins, which was, by the way, the year they were threatened to be contracted in the Metrodome. It's that bad, and it's going to get worse next year. So what are you going to do?
Didn't they have a good year that year? 2002, didn't they?
They
have
did,
a good
yes.
year
It was
year?
Everyone talks about the Moneyball A's, but the 2002 Twins should also have a movie. But that's an off-season subject. So
yeah, they went to the ALCS
and they beat
that year.
the Moneyball A's that year. By the way, anyway,
they did.
So, dang it, Sam, you got me off my tangent.
They had the lowest attendance. That was the year they were going to be contracted.
So what are you going to do to get, like, on the business side, what are you going to do to get fans inside the stadium? And his answer was, we need to win. And boy, Target Field's good to look at. It's fun to be at, isn't it? Target Field's great.
I am so angry for you. Holy crap.
Okay. Target Field is 15 years old. It's not new. It's halfway through its lease.
What do you mean we need to win? You're not going to win anything.
Well, all right, I skipped this part.
Hey, I will say, my sister went to a game at Target Field a couple weeks ago, and she had a lovely.
It's a great field.
That doesn't like sports.
Oh no, this is my other sister who lives here in Columbia. I got 2 older sisters.
I should also say, so like during there is a question during the managerial, like when they're talking about Ball Dudley, so you're going to be interviewing candidates sometime in the next couple of weeks. What are you going to tell them are the expectations for this team next year? Which is another way to say, are you going to suck next year? Like, it's another.
Tell me he said they're going to win. Don't.
No, he said, honestly, I don't want a manager who is just invested in 2026. So, no, we're going to be bad. We know we're going to be bad. Okay, anyway, side tangent, coming back around. So, then all of this question comes around because every year during this press conference, they get asked about the payroll. This is not new to them. They know it's coming. So then they basically ask, So the payroll, where do you expect it to be at? Again, they're not asking for specific numbers. At the start of this year, it was 140 million, and after they cut $20 million out of the payroll, it's about 120 after that, which is less than what it was last year. And again, that's after they did the $30 million pay cut from the year before. They're not asking for specific numbers, but like, give us a direction: flat, even, high, or higher. And Falvey says, well, I haven't had that. We do that conversation in October with ownership. We haven't had that conversation yet. If you're telling me as the business.
So again, we're going to have a meeting.
If you are the director of, you are the president of baseball and business, you know right now. Yes, ownership is going to have to tell you if you're going to cut it out, but you have a pretty good idea. Like where the business numbers are. And yes, the poll ads are probably in penny pinching like crunch right now. Mode. But you have a pretty good idea. So that tells me your non-answer is saying it's going to be lower. Like a lot lower. Because if it was going to be higher, you would certainly tell us right now. And then finally,
or even the same.
Of all of the pathetic answers, this is the most pathetic answer. Again, we are talking to the president of business and baseball. They ask, do you believe Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan will be on the roster next year? And he gives a long-winded answer. And I will sum it up with, he said, I hope so.
So the answer is no. Probably not. They're looking to trade them.
What do you mean you hope so? You are the president of
You're the guy that decides.
And baseball. You have a projected payroll of $90 million, and that's with Lopez and Ryan on the roster.
And they're under contract.
I mentioned earlier that he gave a very aw shucks answer. That's another very aw shucks. Aw shucks, they're two great players. I hope they're on the team next year.
That's such a stupid answer.
The only person that can perform an action to cause them to not be on the roster is that guy.
It's that guy.
Honestly, Eric, I think the answer is yes, because I hope so. He just doesn't. He can do nothing. And they'll be there.
And I'm glad you said that exact same thing. So now the real answer to what you were saying, there is another person who can force them off the roster, and that's Joe Pohlad. Yeah. And I think that's to me, that's what Derek Falvey is telegraphing us. He's kind of saying, honestly, my boss doesn't know what the F he is doing, and I need to corner him in a room and like strangle answers out of him is what yes.
In all of these answers, Falvey could have provided better answers. I do not fault Falvey for his answers, though. It feels to me like he is doing the best he can with a really lousy situation.
Yes.
And yeah, I think he could have answered them better, but I think the crap answers you're getting are heavily because of either an unknown or marching orders he's already been given he doesn't want to share because...
Right. And he's trying to be a shield. He's being a good soldier for his boss. Yeah. And I can believe all of that, but like honestly, it doesn't make it any easier as a Twins fan going into the next couple of years. Because and this is where I started off saying all of this to say there is a severe lack of leadership in this franchise right now. And I think this press conference revealed another level of rot that is going to show for years to come.
I got one other question. If he came out and he said something along the lines of, look, guys, 2026 is probably going to be rough, but we're working on this, and this. We're working on a plan so that this downtime is going to be mitigated as much as possible. As a fan, how would you feel about that?
Not better, but at least it would be more concrete. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you here's where I will give him credit, because not every team does this, gives this amount of access give that role. He did answer the questions. Granted, he did it just because he didn't give satisfying answers, he should still be given credit for at least being in
Facing the
front of the
music.
firing squad, because he had to have known that was going to be rough going into it. So like, I don't want to criticize him for not doing it. And I feel like the amount of difficulty for his position is incredibly high. Like, is he has an owner, it seems like his boss doesn't have a direction for the franchise to go. If he's going to sell the team, not sell the team, they have these independent owners that bring whatever. He's in a
I think
tough
it's
spot.
worse than that. I think it's worse than that. It's not that those tools don't exist in ownership. It's that ownership is what's the
Stagnant.
word I'm looking for? Like chaotic.
Atrophy.
It doesn't unpredictable. Unpredictable. So he can't even well
Pitching chaos.
in that case, you could say, well, Falvey, you're the president here. Like, this is your vision. Go do what you want it. But he
Right.
can't even do that because he doesn't know if the rug's going to be pulled out from under
Right.
him 3
And
weeks from
chances
now.
are next year, when they have a bad year, he's going to be in Rocco's seat and he might be fired.
Yeah.
In which case, like, what do you expect him to? And like, I'm trying not to be. Understand this is. Everyone knows my position on the ownership of the Twins and my favorability towards them. I'm not a fan of the poll ads. Haven't been for some while. And I hope in the last, I guess, like half hour that I've been talking about this, that I'm not trying to blame everything on ownership, but like, boy, is it really difficult with the answers he's give and the direction of this franchise that it doesn't seem to point at the exact top. And it just seems like this team is stuck in atrophy and there's no way out of it until either they get a direction. And like, here's what I will say about Falvey. I believe he's doing the best he can. He had players, but he has not made the best roster decisions. The stuff that has been in his control, the building of the roster. He chose not to, even though he had a limitation on payroll, he chose not to trade and make tough trades last year that might have made a better offense, that might have been the better. They stayed stagnant for 2 years. And here's what I will tell. If you are a young person in college who is about to go into your career and you have a boss that you get frustrated with, and when you approach them and you say that you're frustrated with them and they give you a long speak of corporate speak that doesn't answer the question, it might be time to start looking for a new job, because your job might get better, but it's probably not going to be because of their decisions. It's going to be it's going to be like a happy accident. It gets better, and that's where I kind of feel this is going. Because his
I
decision
think the
to do
other
nothing and to be collaborative, the decision to do nothing is still a decision, and you made it.
yeah. With the Twins also, and like, this is not meant to be a mean comment, Eric. The Twins have the current longest World Series appearance drought in this division. Like, every team in this division has made the World Series in this century, except for the Twins. And we talked about the Twins going 2002, going to the ALCS. That's the last time they made the ALCS, was 2002. Every team in this division has also made the LCS since
I'll double
2002.
down on your point. They had an 0-18 playoff losing streak, and I can tell you as a fan how much that wore on me. Like, I'm happy go lucky. I'm let's enjoy the ride type guy, but like, I've said multiple times on this show that I got emotional that the Twins won a singular playoff game in 2023. And I mean, like, Pablo Lopez showing up in a Johan Santana jersey, and they won a game for the first time since Johan Santana was actually in that jersey. And I can, to actually be emotional over one playoff win and then one playoff series. In the grant, it's pathetic. Like that is a pathetic level of playoff
And
success. But like that's all Twins fans have had to hope for. And now you're looking at in 2025 that this team who 2 years ago looked like they had so much promise and they're going to go the way of the White Sox from 2021. I can tell you exactly how White Sox fans felt in 2023 when their team absolutely collapsed and became the worst team in baseball. Because that's kind of where the Twins are headed next year. And if you're going to tell me the Twins are probably they're slated to have a $90 million payroll next year. And this is after trading Carlos Correa. This is after trading all of those players at the trade deadline. Do I think that they're going to reinvest and get to 120 million, which was the start of last year's payroll? I don't see it. And if they're likely to trade Lopez and Ryan, that's now a $60 million payroll, which will be literally $100 million less than 2023 when they had their most successful season in 2 decades.
And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. It feels like the Twins made the playoffs in 2023. They broke that losing streak, and then they said,
That's it. Job's done.
Good job, guys. Mission accomplished. We did it. Good job.
Thank you for believing in us.
Again,
Yep.
We're going to go do nothing now.
Exactly. Now we're going to cut, and we're going to prepare ourselves for the next owner.
Yep. Which surprised, we're the next owner. We're not actually we're not going anywhere, mother effers.
Exactly.
To that, I have one other thing.
It's the Leonardo DiCaprio scene in Wolf of Wall Street.
The worst version of that. Go ahead, Dan.
Speaking of cutting payroll and pinching every penny you can, any chance Rocco was just fired so that they can hire some new manager that's going to make a lot less?
No, because they picked up his option. Okay. So they picked and I know there was a debate over that, like when they picked it up, because the news broke in like July when they were bad. They picked up that option like before the season started. They haven't officially said that, but they said they picked it up, but they didn't say when the timeline was. They picked it up in spring training, like they always do. They just don't report that. So he's going to get paid like $2 million to sit around, which good for him. Like, I don't blame him. His next year has probably gotten better. What is weird, and then I'll wrap a bow up on this because I've talked for way too long, but like, what is weird is Rocco, I think, whatever you feel of his managerial style, he has been like almost begging to have an athletic team that can run, and he's never gotten a roster to do it. And then the second half of the season, he was like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to run it. I just want people to run. Everyone's going to do it. And I think they literally led the Rangers in stolen bases. They still lost an outrageous amount of games because they had 0 bullpen. But like, I would have almost preferred to see like a full year of Rocco with the playing style he would prefer to manage. And it just seems like, if it's going to be a lost season anyway, why not just give that to him, kind of thing? But like I said,
he could be the tank manager,
right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But they don't have candidates yet, so we'll see what happens. But I have gone on way too long about that. We have one other tangent to go into, and I'm gonna.
Oh yeah.
I have a rant that I want to go on.
One more rant, everyone.
As well as Eric, and you can bring up the slides real quick, Eric. So. Go to the previous slide if you could.
Oop.
Not that slide.
Guys, I'm not doing this.
So last Sunday after we recorded, we talked about a little bit of, some of the way that baseball is being played nowadays. And last Sunday, Trey Turner won the batting title for the National League. He did so with a 304 average, which is the lowest average in the history of the National League to win the batting title. The previous lowest average was 313 by Tony Gwynn in one of the years that he won the batting title of the 50 times he won.
According to your grandfather, he won it like 19 times in a row. So
exactly. Some people have been, and so Trey Turner was talking about this, and someone asked him about the fact that it's the lowest batting average to win the batting title in the National League. And he said, quote, everyone throws 100 miles per hour. Everyone has 6 pitches. Nobody knows where the ball's going. Defenses are way better than they've ever been, which that's something that I've been feeling for the last couple years. That, like, yes, pitchers are better, defenses are better. Like, it's really hard to do that. And, you know,
I'll
Trey
even add
Turner,
to that.
who's
Scouting
someone,
reports are significantly
go
better.
ahead. Scouting reports, absolutely. And Trey Turner is someone who's out there playing the games. And I'm not. What?
Thank you.
You made your own
But
joke.
Full circle now.
comedy comes in threes, ladies and gentlemen. But he's out there playing the games, and he kind of gave light to something that I've been feeling recently as well. And I'm sure Trey Turner's not going to lose any sleep, over the fact that he won the title with the lowest ever batting average. But then later that night, I saw this YouTube short, and the title of this,
for credit for YouTube, Cam23, he has 67,000 subscribers. Go subscribe to him. Full credit to you for the short.
He posted this short, and it's titled "Take Me Back to When Dudes Hit 300." ... And it's a compilation of a bunch of guys in the All-Star game like 15 years ago, and it has their batting average posted. And it's Hanley Ramirez and Matt Holliday and Justin Morneau, and all these guys who have these high batting averages. And this made me unreasonably angry when I saw this. And part of it is, there is nothing I hate more than let's go back to the good old days discourse in our society. Let's go back to the days when men were men and they hit over 300 in the season. Like, it's the same thing as like when boomers post on Facebook, remember when Christmas used to look like this, ... And it's a picture of their Christmas tree from 40 years ago and a bunch of Christmas decorations from 40 years ago.
To be fair, those aluminum trees
look
really good.
Aluminum trees are cool. I'll give you that much. But here's the thing. You are allowed to decorate your Christmas tree however you want. The government did not outlaw tinsel, okay? You can decorate your tree however you want. In the same way, players are allowed to hit 300, okay? There's not a rule that says if you hit above 300, someone's going to come out and shoot you, okay? Players can hit over 300. And the fact that batting average is not emphasized anymore in today's MLB, by the way, that's not a new thing. No. Right? That's been a thing for like the past 10 years, where OPS and slugging and on-base percentage and walks and all of these things are so much more emphasized today, which also, by the way, those are not new stats. Slugging percentage has existed forever. Well, on-base percentage has existed forever.
You said 10 years. We just talked about the Moneyball A's. What's like the most famous line over what does the first baseman do?
He gets on base.
That's not new. That's 2002.
Exactly. And so it just like, part of it is, for so long, baseball was nothing but offense, sure. Right? For 25 years, baseball was nothing but offense, because from like the late 80s, I guess, offense really started picking up. And then you had the 90s, which, continued offense was getting better and better. You want to say something, Dan?
Guys were
Go ahead.
just suddenly, growing like third biceps, and their foreheads were the size of Texas. How did that
I'm
happen?
getting
How did
there.
offense suddenly come out of nowhere? And gee,
I'm getting there, Dan. Don't worry. Offense was continuing throughout the 90s, right? In 1994 happens, the strike, right? 1995, baseball comes back. Baseball realizes people want to see offense. People want to see home runs. Chicks dig the long ball, right? 1998, home run chase happens. 2001, Bonds hits 70 plus home runs. 2000s, continuing. Baseball is all about offense. 2011 hits, a pitcher wins MVP. For the first time, a starting pitcher wins MVP in Justin Verlander for the first time in a long time. 2012 is the year of the pitcher. There's 3 perfect games that year. 2014, a pitcher wins MVP again. 2015, the Royals win the World Series with 3 guys who are closers in their bullpen. And little by little, pitching is getting ahead of the offense, right? And then baseball says, well, we don't like this. We don't like that pitching is ahead. So let's have a juiced ball season where we're going to break the record for most home runs hit across baseball forever. So we're going to have a 2019 season where it's all about home runs. Next, we're going to have a pandemic season. Then we're going to have a season where things are still out of whack in 2021. We're going to now introduce the pitch clock. And then
which
we're going
was
to make
needed,
more rules.
severely needed.
Which was needed severely. So little by little, the pitching has increased by the years, and baseball doesn't want that. Now we're finally getting good pitching and good defense, and people are upset about it. And it's like, we had nothing but offense for 30 years. Like, let's eat our broccoli and watch good pitching. It's okay.
Can I add to your point, especially within like the last 10 years? Not only has pitching, and we talked about, I think like a month ago, Dan brought this up. We talked about like pitching is farther ahead than hitting, which has been like, it's been kind of flipped. But technology and like with like baseball savant, you can match a spin rate. You can create a pitch in a lab, and you can basically know if it's going to work on the field. Where before it was like, let's go to spring training. I have a new grip for this. Let's see if it works against hitters. And then you have now data that can basically tell you if this is going to work or not. And then you can just do picks, Mitch, and all of that good stuff. And I think, and I don't want to take your final point away, Sam, but I feel like what you're trying to say is, can we not just enjoy the game we have in front of us and not be nostalgic for whatever era you grew up in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So,
can I push back on this a little bit?
Yes.
I think,
Go ahead,
Sam, I think the ultimate sentiment is good, and I don't necessarily have a problem with what you're saying. But in a lot of ways, I think baseball and sports in general kind of mimic greater life, American society, whatever you want to call it. And one of the ways is the tech revolution that has occurred over the last 25 years plus, 30 years, whatever time frame you want to put on it. Businesses in this world have immense amounts of data they never had before, and so do sports teams. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing. In a lot of ways, it's not. The number of like the number of streaming services that are out there, the granularity that's occurred in how we have to pay for entertainment is an example of that. The amount of data tracking that companies do just to sell us ads every day, so they can send you an ad that hits your demographic, that matches something you maybe Googled 2 days ago, whatever the case may be. Social media, to me, is not a very good thing in general that it exists. I think it's deepened issues within our society and put people in bubbles. Um, Now, to a much less, the stakes are different in sports, but you see it in baseball where the game, they're trying to figure out the essence of the game to the minute detail. What is the optimal way to play the sport? And what they've learned is teach these guys how to spin the ball, throw as hard as you can, and that's led to its own drawbacks. Every pitcher has to have Tommy John surgery these days. That's not ideal. That's your stars are being taken off the field because they have to have this surgery because the most optimal way to throw the baseball to be most effective is detrimental to their health. Um, Offense is down, and quite frankly, while I agree with a lot of what you're saying, it is not as aesthetically pleasing to watch a bunch of guys strike out and walk and hit home runs. It's not. That's why we got rid of the shift and all these things, and so the same kind of drawbacks that happened because of the tech revolution everywhere else. The other example would be basketball, where they figured out shots at the rim, 3-pointers. That's what we want. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
ultimately, those things in and of themselves are not problematic. But the thing that bothers me is maybe it's because I'm a Guardians fan and this is kind of coloring my perspective. But the idea that there's one way to be really good at the sport
Right.
is not good for the sport. That to me is that if you want to win, you hear the stat now in the playoffs. Well, the team that hits more home runs in the playoffs, this game is going to end up winning 80% of the time. To me, there needs to be multiple ways to be good and multiple ways to be successful. And I think we've gotten better with some of the rule changes. But I just think that the guy's not hitting 300 is a symptom of that. And the complaints that come with that are a symptom of
Right.
that.
It's
I
like the meta of how like a
Yes.
lot of competitive games where I don't have an example because I don't really play these types of games that much, but like multiplayer battle games where everyone is
I
playing
can
this character, and so you counter that by playing this other
Mm-hmm.
character, and then it shifts into where everyone's playing this other character, so you counter that by and that kind of thing. So it's kind of
it's not
the back
fun.
and forth.
It's not fun to play the guy on Madden who runs 4 verticals every play. And it's even less fun, I imagine, to watch that.
And then you have
It's
2005 Michael Vick,
Yeah.
who in Madden,
Yeah,
who was just like unstoppable.
incredible.
You find the loophole and you find the thing that works every time.
Yep.
It's cool. It works every time. It's boring after a certain point.
Can I kind of and I may be taking too much on my shoulders, so you guys tell me if I'm full of crap or not after. But I feel like what Sam was saying to start all of this, there's like a worry, whether it's in baseball or basketball or football, that once you get enough data, you have solved the sport. That the excitingness, like the excitement of the sport, can be solved by a spreadsheet. And there is this, and like I'm not very good, but I play a lot of chess, like online. And the same thing, like there are chess engines or computers that are so much better than human beings will ever be. And I mean by multiples. The best player in the world is Magnus Carlsen. He will get destroyed 10 times out of 10 by a chess engine. And there's this worry that a team, let's say the Dodgers, will find that formula and they will win for an eternity. And that's when you're basing on human performance, you're worried about when you're talking about human performance, that's never going to actually be the thing. The game is going to evolve. And yes, the NBA, it's 3 and D, not even D anymore. It's 3-pointers and it's dunks. And if you don't do anything at the mid-range game, unless you're incredibly good at it, there's no reason in trying. So then you're going to have, like, talk about baseball. If you do not hit 330, there's no reason that you shouldn't be hitting 30, trying to hit 30 home runs. So then a Luis Ariz doesn't mean as much, especially when you have a Tarek Skubal, who you can basically, I don't want to say create in a lab, but it's easier to advance pitching more than hitting. But Dan, you raised your hand. I'll shut up
Yeah.
now.
And Actually, I'm going to talk about both sides of my mouth now, because in the NBA, I think all those things are true. But ultimately, guys that are good at mid-range still shoot mid-range and are very effective. So there is nuance there. But the problem is perception.
Right.
And baseball has had a horrible perception amongst casual people for a long time that it is drab and boring and uninteresting and all, and for old people and all this stuff. Perception matters. And so having more things for people to complain about is not ideal. And so I just wanted to add that. Even you could fix your sport, you could have it be better, you could do all these things. If the perception is still that this is watching paint dry,
We
then what did
we
you accomplish?
still had a guy in MLB this year who hit 60 home
Yeah.
runs.
We've got another guy who went out and
right?
pitched a playoff game last night, and what was his OPS this year? It was very high, right? This
We had
is
a
an
guy with
incredible
50.
sport.
Like
We had a guy with 56 home runs strike out a guy with 55 home runs, or maybe they
Yes.
exactly. It's like just because we're not seeing guys hit 350 and win the batting title anymore doesn't mean that there isn't excitement to be had in the game of baseball.
Right.
That I
and,
agree with.
and to go on that too, like I think kind of what your argument too is saying, and it's saying if I'm taking too many liberties with with what you're trying to say, please tell me to shut up. But like, there is a point when you're such at like an extreme, we're such like at an extreme home run and strikeout era that eventually you want to like, that pendulum is going to swing back. So like we're such at an extreme of home runs, strikeouts that we've solved the game, right? Like you want as much OPS as you can. That's eventually going to swing back, and you're starting to see that. Like MLB is starting to tweak the rules so that you can steal more bases. At some point,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a break when so many pitchers are on the IL. And yes, right now it is such a velocity is such a monster in the game right now, whether you're talking about pitching or exit velocity, that there's I guess like underappreciated talents in the game. The Guardians are a good example. Speed and defense, you can't measure that easily for the impact of the game. It impacts, but it's a little underrated. And we're trying to find that balance. And at some point, it's going to swing the other way.
The only argument I'm trying to make is that stuff, that other ancillary stuff, has to be a little bit more impactful in order to make the game what I'm trying to envision, which is there's not one way to be successful.
Right.
We need to figure out what combination of things. And, I lamented Stephen Vogt's bullpen decision making in this episode. And I think that's a really good example of what you're talking about, Eric, where maybe pitchers are going to have to pitch 3 times through the order in playoff games so that you're not sending Hunter Gaddis out there for the 7th time in 17 days. That is a way in which, maybe we can't have all these guys coming out in inning 1 and throwing 100 because we need them to throw more innings. And I'm hoping that'll become a thing. I'm hoping strategy will change a little bit of that. One thing for me, people get upset about the juice ball and the not juice ball and this ball and that ball. I think it would be interesting if the league every year just changed the ball.
You don't know what ball it's very difficult to actually control for that because it's stuff like the laces are slightly tighter or like the leather is cured for this amount or it's all these really minute things that are not entirely controllable.
I want the ball to be unpredictable. I don't want people to be able to utilize meta because they don't know what ball they're playing with. Now, it has to have for safety, it needs to have the springiness of the ball I want to vary, either by year or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And I think my biggest problem with this is just the kind of attitude of let's go back to the good old days, which I just like I think is such kind of a microcosm of society right now. And not to be political, but let me be political. When you have our top military official get up on stage and say, "Hey guys, let's go back to the good old days."
No fatties.
Like that Exactly. No fatties in baseball. No fat.
That's not true.
That's a bigger.
Have you
that's
seen
a much
Alejandro
bigger
Kirk?
ask. That's not going to happen. But it's like it's this attitude that we all, and this is not specific to today. Like I think today we kind of have a little bit more of this going on, but this is something that's existed forever. Of this attitude of let's go back to the good old days,
Well, also, not
guys.
for.
I just like I hate
I agree
this.
with you, and kind of for the and like Sam, you're what in your upper 20s. I'm now 37 years old, so
28.
I'm about a decade older than you. Part of the good old days, people are
Don't add those extra 3 years, Eric.
but like people talk about those good old days. Like I watched those good old days. It wasn't all fun. Like Terry Tiffey batting second for the Twins. I could probably never see that again. Like that's fine. Like not everything was great. You're looking at it through rose-colored glasses. But don't
Because when
pretend
you were a kid, yeah.
that it wasn't like that it also wasn't flawed. That like we talked about at the start of this episode, like a sacrifice bunt is basically a worthless play in baseball. And that has been escalated to like now sabermetricians tell you never to bunt. No, there's times to bunt, but you took it to an extreme that it made it not an appealing option or not like a good option to do. And like we don't need to, like I'm nostalgic too. Like I love 90s wrestling. Give me some Stone Cold. I have tattoos because I saw The Undertaker in 1998 and I thought he was the best thing ever.
Eric, you know that's
How
fake,
dare
right?
you, sir? How dare you? The Undertaker has an urn, which is real, and there's real dead body parts in there. How dare you? It gives him power. Anyway, I think this is really near our longest episode. Unless anybody has any, and I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick. But does anybody have any closing arguments? Sam, you brought up this topic. It was a really good topic. Do you have any closing thoughts on it?
No, I just it's okay that guys don't hit for a high batting.
I have one more thought. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Yes.
You can still watch baseball.
Pitchers need to be the stars of the sport. Let's lean. If we're going to go this way, there's other ways to create entertainment. The one guy who can control a game the way that a quarterback could in the NFL or whoever else is the pitcher. That is going to require two things. These guys have to be healthy. They got to pitch deeper into ball games. I feel like I've used this as a venue to try to fix the game the way Dan wants to fix the game, so I apologize for that. But to me, let's embrace this then, and let's make pitchers the stars.
I will agree with that. I will half agree with that. MLB needs to do a better job of creating stars because Mike Trout has been a superstar for 15 years. He's on the back end, but like Mike Trout should have been the face of baseball and a much bigger deal than he was. He was a generational talent. And I think if you were going to look back, like his impact on sports in general, like not just baseball, but in general, is probably much smaller than previous baseball generations. So whoever you deem as the stars, pitchers, Aaron Judge, a Yankee, a Dodger, a Twin, a Guardian, a Royal, whatever. Market your players in a way that makes them stars. And that's what I will agree with.
This is not the time, but we need to have a deeper conversation about that.
Right. And that's an off-season subject.
I get frustrated with that sentiment sometimes. Not the sentiment in and of itself, but the details of it. Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, well, that will be our teaser because we have a whole offseason to talk about. Right now, there's one team alive.
One last thing. I'm going to go around. Everyone's going to say their World Series prediction.
Okay.
All right.
Eric?
If this helps you...
who we want or who we think?
Your prediction. What your prediction for the World Series is.
Fuck it. Go get
it,
them, Tigers.
Toronto is currently up 11-0 in the 5th inning. Ooh. So...
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on that series.
Go for the Tigers. Go do it. I'm all in. Tigers.
Who are they going to beat?
Phillies.
Okay, Tigers over Phillies. Lee?
My prediction is Blue Jays over Blue Jays over Brewers.
Okay. I'm going to say the opposite. Brewers over Jays.
I've got Mariners over Cubs in 6, and you can read more about it on pickupsportstalksilly.com if you so desire.
We'll put a link in the comments.
Oh.
I'm gonna add one last plug. I'm almost, I don't know, most of the way through this book. It's called The Game by John Pessa. If you enjoyed the last like 20 minutes of this episode, talking about like the 90s and the 2000s, this is a really good book. The Game by John Pessa. It's really long, but god damn it, if it isn't one of the best like baseball books I've ever read. I'll leave it at that with a cheap plug. But with that, thank you all. If you have made it 2 hours and 25 minutes, thank you. You're the best. We appreciate you always. We're probably going to break this episode up into, probably 2 places on YouTube, but hopefully this commute killed a commute for you and this wasn't just a long ramble. Thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you. We'll see you next week.